Chapter 1053 Negotiations. I don't have a problem lending you the merit, nodded Wang Wei after pondering for a moment. However, I don't want merit with interest. After hearing these words, Huofeng Huang immediately became on guard. Suddenly, she felt she was making a deal with the devil, and such deals were never worth it. What do you want then? I want to borrow your ancient clan's Qi luck condensing artifact for the duration of my reign, directly stated Wang Wei, and Huofeng Huang wanted to reject this idea immediately. But she controlled her urges and thought about the trade for a few minutes. It's not impossible to let you borrow it if it's only for this generation, said Huofeng Huang. However, the small amount of merit I will borrow is not enough for a deal of such a caliber. She had already amassed a large quantity of merit but was short. The early stages of the expansion are over, so gathering merit is no longer as fast and efficient as it used to be. Nevertheless, they were still gathering merit, just at a turtle-crawling space compared to before. Huofeng Huang will gather the merit needed for the transition as long as she waits. After seeing Ao Shin's success, she only asked for a loan because of her competitive nature. That's a fair point. What do you think is a fair exchange? Let me think. Besides the merit I need, I want a few world communities for the ancient clan when the court further expands, said Huofeng Huang. Additionally, I want the position of regent for 10 generations. Wang Wei shook his head. Do you feel it's not worth it? Asked Huofeng Huang. I know you've been trying to gather the Qi luck artifact of the world that has contributed to the cultivation of civilization. I can tell you all the others cannot compare to our ancient clan, including the Dao opening sect. She was not boasting, as their clan contained the unique blessing of all the others: Dao Father Qi luck, Alchemy Ancestor Qi luck, Talisman Ancestor, Array Ancestor, and Weapon Ancestor. Their clan's Qi luck is not as potent as the others because they are from an old era cycle, but it's still significant since these destinies have been blessed for the fact they were the first. And that's not to mention the countless other types of Qi lucks fused in the mix. As such, the price she asked for was more than worth it. Let me explain a misunderstanding you might have, countered Wang Wei. The expansion will not be a conquest where we take over other world communities, including establishing a court and taking over god positions. It's not. Many people assumed that was the next step and prepared for the upcoming world/planar war. I will use a less aggressive approach, replied Wang Wei. Our expansion will be the mortal civilizations, dream world, and enlightening temple. Over-aggression and conquering will be detrimental to the longevity of his era. So he will use a more peaceful approach. Of course, Wang Wei also knows his method will also garner him a lot of enemies. These worlds will not be kind to foreigners for changing or influencing their history, and Wang Wei is prepared to use any means necessary to spread these things and gather merit. He's also prepared for the consequences. Huofeng Huang frowned after hearing this news. I know what you're thinking, continued Wang Wei. This time around, 95% of the merit for the mortal civilizations will go to you, and I will only take 5%. That will indeed make up for the divine positions and other benefits, nodded Huofeng Huang, who also felt extremely jealous thinking about the benefit for everything else that Wang Wei and the Dao opening sect will receive. Are we allowed to establish our own court in other world communities? Asked Huofeng Huang. Yes, but you must reduce your power in this court, just like the Great Talisman City. Huofeng Huang's eyes narrowed. Despite the increase to 95% of the merit, the expansion will not be as simple as it seems because confrontation and war will be involved. In other words, the risk will increase, and many people will begin to wonder whether the benefits are worth it. Forget the benefit of the expansion, she said. If you want our luck artifact, the regent position is non-negotiable. I have no problem with granting it to you, but 10 generations is too long, argued Wang Wei. It's really not if you consider the instability of the position itself. With the effect of all you've accomplished, how difficult do you think it will be for a second-class emperor to appear and not be eligible to sit on the throne? Persuaded Huofeng Huang. Everyone knows that in the next 100 generations, the myriad emperor world will usher in an era of countless geniuses and top-tier emperors. So, who knows when our ancient clan will have the opportunity to use this regent position? Good argument, but also very flawed, replied Wang Wei calmly. I already stated that I will leave tests to determine who can inherit my legacy. So, even if someone meets the strength requirement, they can't become Heavenly Emperor if they don't meet my other requirements. Wang Wei looked her in the eyes. The regent position will be used more often than people believe. So, I can only give you 1 generation. After all, I'm the only one using the artifact, and it's only for a short period. No, that's too little, countered Huofeng Huang. A regent position with probably powerful emperors who failed is dangerous and not conducive to business. You cannot just want the benefit and not the trouble that comes with the job. Since I'm negotiating benefits, of course, I can, argued Huofeng Huang. If the ancient clan has to worry about a potent enemy while using the regent position, then the position's value has depreciated. Do you have any idea how much the position will be worth by the time I leave? Asked Wang Wei. Don't use this useless trick on me, countered Huofeng Huang. You and I both know many people or worlds will instantly reverse some of the things you've accomplished the moment you leave. Wang Wei's eyes secretly twitched as he had long predicted this outcome. Sadly, this was the price for using force to forcibly make these people and worlds develop, for the rapid development without preparation, and the backwater and conservative mindset of the cultivation world. His dream world will be fine as most people will find it helpful and want to protect it. Furthermore, true heavenly Tao won't want such a thing to be removed from the lower dimension after seeing its positive effect. The courts will also be okay as they have been the trend of heaven and earth for a long time. The progress he brought to mortals is the one he knows will be dismantled. Cultivators have always despised and looked down on mortals despite once being one. So, they will never accept such people have equal rights as them. Even worse, many won't even accept the fact that mortals are no longer the dirty and ignorant individuals they were and should be. Luckily, the mortals will have the enlightening temples to protect them and give them a fighting chance. And if some world might create a miracle where a mortal's art could reach the level of an immortal, these worlds will be saved. Things will not crumble as fast as you say, replied Wang Wei calmly. The fear his strength will bring to the world will prevent those people from actively acting on his legacy for at least a few dozen generations. Furthermore, he will also leave a fighting chance for the mortals. The sage, statues in the temples are the first step. At the right moment, they can manifest a spirit and bear the destiny, karma, and luck of their people, who worship them as sages and protected them. With these sages, the mortals will have a fighting chance of survival even if a great emperor is the one trying to erase their civilization. Under the fear of my power, no one will touch my things for the next few hundred generations, Wang Wei calmly stated. Still over-exaggerating, no, you're simply underestimating me, countered Wang Wei. None of you know how powerful I will be before leaving and to what length I'm willing to go to protect my legacy. Huofeng Huang felt a chill run down her spine. However, she quickly regained her bearing and continued this negotiation. They talked for more than an hour before agreeing. In the end, Wang Wei was not willing to give the regent position for more than 1 generation. There were too many benefits to being a regent, and he only had to use the ancient clan's luck until his ascension. So, Huofeng Huang had to settle for other benefits like keeping all 100% merit in a few of the worlds during the community-wide expansion. After her departure, Wang Wei summoned Ao Shen to have an official chat with him. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1054 Dragon Gate. Ao Shen walked into the throne room and saluted as usual. With his awakening, Tao will manifestation and a bloodline ability that turned into a source technique, he has achieved 3 peak battle fold, and that will increase after refining his unique Proving Tao artifact and using the remaining merit he has to increase his cultivation. However, he knew such strength was useless before this man. What can I do for you, your majesty? I call you here for 2 reasons, stated Wang Wei. Firstly, I need to know whether the demon race will stay in the Myriad Emperor world or if you plan to leave to set up your own rule somewhere else. Do you want us to leave? Asked Ao Shen instead of answering. I don't care what choice you make, I just need to know which one it is so I can prepare beforehand. Ao Shen frowned. wondering whether these words were a threat. By his deduction, Wang Wei had no need to do such a thing, but he could not help thinking of the worse. He observed for a few seconds but could not find any information from the latter's bland and calm expression. "The myriad Emperor world is as much our home as any humans," replied the Primal Darkness Dragon Emperor. "We have fought and contributed to this world despite how humans repay us every time. So, no, we do not plan to leave our home." Aoshin never thought of leaving, otherwise he would have done so long ago. He considered this place as much his home as the human race despite all the misfortunes and mistreatments they've suffered. Additionally, Aoshin's greatest wish is one day his kind will become the protagonist of this world, so leaving was never an option. "That's good to hear," nodded Wang Wei, who chose not to comment on the latter's passionate speech about the demon race's plight. Was the human race wrong? Of course. It has been so long since the Golden Ape Emperor's appearance, and to this day, many people still use that excuse to justify their cruelty toward the demon race. After knowing that the Golden Ape Emperor was nothing but a pawn of the human emperor, the human race's actions were more than just cruel and excessive. Unfortunately, he was still a human and needed to see many things from this point of view. In the cultivation world where individual power is outrageous, and the importance of resources can determine a specious existence, things like peaceful coexistence between two different races, especially those of opposing cultures, views, and diets, are nothing but a pipe dream. So far, his reign has achieved a great balance between the human and demon races. He never belittled them, raised them from the ground, treated them relatively fairly, or tried to oppress them. But this cannot be said for his successor. The second topic is I wonder if you'll be interested in being an ambassador to the sealed innate life forms, asked Wang Wei. Them? Yes. It should be about time that I released them, and I thought you might be the person to introduce them to the world and help them acclimate. Aoshin did not immediately give an answer. Although he was an innate demon, he never truly considered himself one of them. He was a bloodline miracle of the demon race, so he identified with them and considered them his kin. But that did not change the fact that his bloodline was no longer a demon. I need only consider the benefits, not the personal aspect of this move, thought Aoshin. It's impossible to convince these creatures to join the side of the demon race. He knew how arrogant his kind were just because they were born from heaven and earth. So, even if these new ones aren't as arrogant because of the era, some things are innate, and for the innate demons, arrogance was one of these traits. Being the ambassador is an opportunity to form an alliance with the returned innate demons. Whether the alliance was military or economic, the demon race would benefit. I accept the position, replied Aoshin. That's good to hear, nodded Wang Wei. I will lower the restrictions in their seal. They should regain their consciousness and mobility but still cannot leave their small world. He waved his hand to give him a talisman. This should allow you to enter their sealed area. However, I recommend you communicate with them through divine sense first and only enter after they give you permission. Aoshin nodded as he would do the same even without these words. He understood the need for respect of his kind, so he would never barge in even if he could. Well, I know you should be busy after your transition, so I won't keep you. Your Majesty, I have something I would like to ask. Go ahead, replied Wang Wei. Will the demon school continue to expand? Yes, but you won't be the only one sharing the merit. Aoshin's brow furrowed. He had already tasted the sweetness of being in charge of this project, so it was not a good feeling knowing everybody would have a share now. I understand, replied Aoshin while secretly sighing. The demon race needs a patent-worthy invention. Sadly, such a thing is rarer than how eternal emperors used to be. After borrowing, he left the throne room before disappearing from the court. Above the sky in the northern continent, he looked at the moon as he sensed a tribulation similar to his. She already has the merit? He thought before sneering as he guessed what she did to amass them so swiftly. After returning home, Aoshin immediately began to work. Now that he had changed to the most supreme of all cultivation paths, it was time to bless his people truly. The first step was modifying the spirit/innate chi veins scattered throughout the northern continent. He fused his dragon aura into the veins, turning them into a unique innate dragon vein that releases innate dragon chi. As soon as he succeeded, all the demon races felt the difference. Innate chi was already very helpful or useful in helping them purify their bloodline. But now, with the added dragon aura, the chi was specially designed for the growth and development of the demon race. From now on, the northern continent was truly their territory and theirs alone. Aoshin looked at his work and nodded in satisfaction. He then added the last finishing touch, protection. He did not want people to destroy his work after his departure, so he left his strength in these veins to protect them. Although he prepared a potent race-protecting array to protect the northern continent, Aoshin wanted to be extra cautious. Aoshin teleported to a very well-hidden dimension of the demon race. He stared at a towering white gate with dragon designs. Without hesitation, he plunged his right hand into his chest to pull out his beating heart. His face paled, indicating this was a serious injury for someone of his kind. Aoshin did not care as he swallowed a pill to stabilize his injury. Under his control, the heart flew to the gate before fusing into it, turning it red while releasing intense lights. After a few seconds, the gate moved on its own as it flew exactly 99,999 kilometers in the air before opening its door to release water and forming what resembled a waterfall. A fish leaping the dragon gate to become a true dragon, muttered Aoshin with a wide grin. This dragon gate is the ultimate foundation he will leave behind to the demon race. Every generation, the most talented demons can come here to purify their blood by swimming up the water. The ones who successfully reach the gate will even have the opportunity to revert to innate and become like him or elevate their bloodline to be on par with innate demon gods. He had this idea after seeing the captured Wang clan member. Although he only saw the kid briefly, he guessed some of the essence of his bloodline. Aoshin walked to the waterfall and tasted it. Still needs a lot of work, he commented. He used many resources, including many different bloodlines, to build this gate, but it was still incomplete. Firstly, he would love to get more innate demon god bloodline to fuse with the gate, so that's another reason he accepted the Heavenly Emperor's proposal. Secondly, he needs to further nourish the gate with bloodline, but that will have to wait until his body reaches a higher level in the true Power Dao realm. Lastly, he needs a very potent thunder resource to add to the gate. According to Aoshin's vision, this artifact would also assist his kind in their tribulation. He knows how terrifying the tribulation is for changing the bloodline or any other type of tribulation, and this thing will be of great use. Aoshin left this place to participate in the festivities. He still had a few more things to accomplish before he could visit the innate demon gods. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1055 Seed of Distrust. Heavenly Court. Wang Wei observed the talisman with the characters, Ancient Clan, in his hand. The Ancient Clan was not a monolith, so their Chi Luck artifact was many and took different shapes. However, the overall condensed luck of everybody manifested in the talisman in his hand. I thought it would be much harder for Hua Fenghuang to get her hands on this thing. It seems her control of the clan is greater than I gave her credit for, thought Wang Wei before looking at the moon. He saw her tribulation, and it was something to scoff at. True heavenly Tao was ruthless in the tribulation, most likely as a way to deter people from walking the path of transition. This is probably why, despite the ancient clan giving birth to a few 4- and 5-star primarchs, no one has actually transitioned. Of course, this kind of tribulation is child's play compared to his immeasurable tribulation, but it's not something ordinary heaven-chosen can handle. After observing for a while, Wang Wei put away the talisman before visiting Su Shi. After she made the court her residence, they talked often and further developed their friendship. Innate demon god race small world. This world is wrong, said Primordial Life, a giant woman with 4 spike horns and small celestial bodies orbiting around them. Yes, there seems to be some incongruity with our birth, agreed Primordial Death, a gendered neutral colossal being with all black eyes, no pupil and 6 arms. Primordial Might, why don't you say anything? The others asked, looking at another titan with significant muscle, blue skin and 4 eyes. If you check the history of this world, you would understand why, replied Primordial Might. The others followed his lead and used their divine sense to scan the books of small supreme lands. So, we used to rule this land? Asked Primordial Death. The three looked at each other. They had no memories of their ancestors and did not inherit any of their legacies. However, the previous history has made their situation more complex to navigate. So, what should we do? Asked Primordial Life. We do not have any connections to our ancestors. Our focus should be integrating into this world, replied Primordial Might. Just accept things like this? Rebutted Primordial Life. Did you not sense that gaze after we were unsealed? Primordial Might asked, and everyone shivered at the mention of these words. They remembered that fear and warning. This is not our world, and the sooner we accept this, the better chance we have at surviving and eventually thriving, warned Primordial Might. He was the embodiment of the power law and also the idea that might is right. Since the human race hunted their predecessors to extinction, he believed they had the right to rule this world. Okay. In that case, let's discuss with the demons to see what they think, nodded Primordial Life. So they contacted the Ancestral Dragon, Empress Phoenix, and Origin Qilin. The conversation went all right initially until Aoshin showed up, telling them he was the ambassador of the court to introduce and initiate them into the world. The primordial gods noticed Aoshin's identity and became suspicious of his motives towards the innate demons. Luckily, the latter did not act rashly, and his actions showed nothing suspicious during the short meeting. However, the primordial gods realized their counterpart might have a direct ally in the form of the acquired demon race while they had nothing. So, they prepared for the possible break. Aoshin, you've become too predictable, thought Wang Wei as he watched these interactions. He knew the dragon would want allies for his demon race and counted on him to act on it. Now, the seed of suspicions has been planted on the primordial gods, which would lead to the separation of these two groups and eventually weaken them. The demon race can have the innate demons, and we will take the primordial gods, thought Wang Wei. He had already severed the connection between the current and former innate demon gods to prevent their history from affecting these creatures, but that was not enough. It does not change the fact they had such a glorious history, so Wang Wei needed to prepare in case one of them, maybe in the future, had the idea of reclaiming the glory of their ancestors. So, he decided to weaken them at the earliest inception. He would not give them time to form any bond or trust as he immediately planted a seed of doubt in their mind on the first day they regained consciousness and interacted with the world. The next step is to completely separate them, even until they have completely different cultures and ideologies. That way, in the future, even if one of them has some ideas, it will become 100 times more difficult to execute them without the support of the other. Wang Wei calmly watched everything before continuing to wait and observe. He received news that the totem warrior path had finally been perfected without any issues. Wu Ming had done an excellent job training the court's divine generals and soldiers. These positions involved many benefits, so many cultivators volunteered to become court members in this capacity. So, the Totem Warrior Legion and Devil Legion received countless daily applications. The cycle of the seasons rotated, and it was 3 years later that Huafeng Huang finally passed. The world celebrated the birth of the sacred beast empress. Sadly, just like Aoshin, people were now too used to the appearance of eternal emperors and did not care as much. They respected her as they should to a powerhouse of this caliber, but it was not the same. The only ones who truly celebrated were the ancient clan, as Huafeng Huang was their first Eternals in a very long time. Despite their arrogance, they have been afraid of their clan's decline, and the appearance of an Eternal is proof of their revival, so they all looked forward to the future. A little over a month after the sacred beast empress appearance, golden lights enveloped the western White Tiger continent, followed by visions of gilded lotus and Buddhist chants. An intense amount of Buddhist Tao rhymes then enveloped the entire continent. Did he succeed? Muttered Wang Wei as he watched the show. No, not succeed, but something else. As expected, Feng Heng, the Taozen Buddha Emperor, appeared to announce the appearance of a new scripture. However, this scripture is not for the entire myriad emperor world but for Buddhism in general. It is the perfect manifestation of all its ideals and philosophy. Feng Heng received much merit for his efforts, probably even more than he would have for the perfect scripture for his home world. Over the past 10,000 years, Buddhism has spread to every corner of this world community, overshadowing Taoism or other religions, cults, or schools of thought. And that's despite Wang Wei's restrictions not to shove religion on people and Feng Heng's desire not to repeat the old mistakes. In other communities, the seed of Buddhism already planted by Wang Wei and Feng Heng has not improved much, but they have preserved their strength, waiting for the opportune time. Many things at home are about to be settled, muttered Wang Wei. That's a good thing for the upcoming outward expansion. He looked in the distance, his eyes focused on a tiny small 1,000 worlds. His mother was finishing the last few enlightening temples before her ascension to immortality. Nothing should go wrong, but I cannot help but worry, thought Wang Wei. As he waited patiently for the day, he received news from Miscellaneous One and returned to the sect. Which one did you finish? Asked Wang Wei. The Immortal Qi Array, replied Miscellaneous One as he showed him the final result of his hard work. Like you wanted, Immortal Venerables can link their mansions to the array, and it will help them cultivate. I also added tiers as you recommended. Wang Wei nodded. Since he instructed the creation of these things, the situation has changed, so he needed a different approach. The Dao opening sect was too powerful, so they did not need the appearance of any immortal sovereigns. That's why, even if they have enough qi to cultivate one, they never use it and leave it for future emergencies. This thing came at the perfect time, commented Wang Wei. He knew there might be a backlash because he would not expand his court into other world communities. Many of these people were already preparing for war, wanting to fight for their benefit. However, the array is the perfect incentive to replace the court positions these people would have acquired for the expansion. You did a great job, praised Wang Wei before leaving the sect with the array. He first secretly set up the main array in the Myriad Emperor world before establishing interconnected branches in all worlds in the community. His array Dao, which had now reached over 10%, made it easier to do so, and this approach drastically strengthened the overall power of this formation. Once Wang Wei finished, he did not announce the news to anyone as he waited for the next court meeting to give the news. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1056 Family Celebration. Wang Wei did not have to wait long as a few months later, his mother secretly visited him. Her time was ready, and she was stressed about the upcoming event. Wang Wei reassured her by preaching existence to her, and this approach immensely helped Yu Yan feel more confident. Then the day finally arrived. While Yu Yan prepared in the Yu clan, Wang Wei, Wang Tian, and Wang Chang watched everything from a screen in the court. Do you think she will be okay? Asked Wang Tian, walking back and forth to the point his father became annoyed and smacked him in the back of his head to stop. According to the old man, his jittering made him more nervous, so he had to stop. Wang Wei, who was trying to keep himself from laughing, said with difficulty, "She's fine. After all, don't you know who she gave birth to?" "Are you praising her or yourself?" asked Wang Tian, rolling his eyes. "Of course her." Wang Wei was not lying, as he was born with an immense destiny and the tremendous karmic weight that comes with it. The fact she survived his birth is a miracle, and also due to the support of the Dao opening sect's luck and destiny. But her survival is a testament to her talent, ability, and potential. Wang Tian exhaled. The atmosphere in the room allowed him to calm down. He knew his wife's capabilities, especially after finding herself and her ambitions. So, he decided there was no need to panic, and he only needed to trust her. The time for the ceremony arrived, and Yu Yan began. She called upon heaven and earth respectfully before summarizing her accomplishment of bringing balance between mortals and cultivators. She emphasized how peaceful the world has become because of her actions. The eye of heavenly Tao manifested and judged her actions. Then, after she offered the required merit, the latter lowered a heaven will to her. Muttered Wang Wei. "What is it? Is something wrong?" asked Wang Tian, but his son did not answer. Instead, a powerful and mysterious aura emanated from his body. Nothing? Said Wang Wei. No, I would not have this weird feeling if it were nothing. He no longer hesitated and swallowed an illusionary pill, raising his strength to the Empyrean tier. Found you, little rat, said Wang Wei with a sneer before making a crabbing motion. In his palm were 2 potent souls condensed into crystals. Intruders? Asked Wang Chong. Yes. Do you know who? She, replied Wang Wei, who recognized the strange power that was protecting these people from his detection. He waited for the perfect time to strike. He sneered with a terrifying killing intent that made the room freeze. What are you going to do? Wang Wei crushed these souls after getting the information he wanted. I already planned to attack him and the commerce hub after the expansion to the martial hegemony world. The plan won't change. Despite his anger, he knew not to act out of emotions, so he soon calmed down. However, if the Spirit Genesis sect had a small chance of surviving his wrath before, they no longer had this opportunity. Wang Wei focused on his mother. As soon as she absorbed the heaven will, he felt relieved as she knew she was now under true heavenly Daos protection. Now, he only had to wait for the final result. He watched with bated breath as the first flower appeared around his mother, indicating she met the first requirement of 20% Grand Dao source. Soon afterward, she condensed her Dao will, and the second flower materialized. Come on, honey. We're more than halfway done, commented Wang Tian as he looked with excitement. He knew the last one was the real hurdle and the one that mattered the most. Then, after what felt like an eternity, the 4 of them watched the third flower condense, followed by a grand vision surrounding the entire world. Wang Wei sighed in relief. His eyes saw the truth. If he had not put up that stupid play for true heavenly Dao, his mother's chances of becoming an eternal would have been drastically lowered. Life is truly like a game, and you must know the rules and play if you want to reach the top, thought Wang Wei. There were many things in the cultivation world he was not happy with, for example, the raising gu method of the Emperor path. However, he lives by the philosophy that he has to play the game and follow the rules until he can become a rule maker. Otherwise, if he tries to be special and break the rules while weak, the only fate awaiting him is one worse than death. Let's go see her, said Wang Tian, not hiding his excitement. No, it's not over yet, said Wang Wei, and he was correct. I am Yu Yen, daughter of Yu Yong and Yun Zhaojun. Today, I have proven the Dao and taken on the title of Eternal Darkness Empress. I am also the first sage of merit of this blessed era. As soon as she finished these words, something anomalous occurred. Her vision began to spread throughout the lower realm, and her voice echoed throughout most of the lower dimension. A golden figure of Yu Yen appeared above heaven and earth, and most people in the entire dimension saw the figure. All cultivators instantly knew that a sage of merit was born. This was her golden body of merit. The body was pure, noble, and exuded awe and status. Sounds of sages and profound scholars chanting echoed from it. No matter their cultivation, anyone with an abnormal amount of negative karma could not directly look at the golden figure. After a few minutes, the golden figure fused with Yu Yan's body, granting her many of its attributes. That's one of the best tier 1 golden body. A little more merit and she can condense a second tier, commented Wang Wei with praise. That's my wife, praised Wang Tian. That's my mother, countered Wang Wei. And that's my daughter-in-law, what's your point? Added Wang Chong, making the other 2 speechless. Instead of wasting time, let's go see her. The charade of deceiving true heavenly Dao had to remain for a while, so Wang Wei and the group had to visit Yu Yen in her clan instead of her returning to the Dao opening sect. They had a short party for everyone, including Yu Yan's clan, sister, and Wang Wei's cousins. Finally, it was the 4 of them. Again, congratulations, Mom, said Wang Wei as he hugged her. Thanks, honey. My wife is an eternal emperor. How many men can brag about such a thing? Stop saying that. Aren't you embarrassed? Said Yen. What? I can't be proud, replied Wang Tian before taking a large sip of his wine. He looked at his son. Jealous, aren't you? Don't talk nonsense. Honey, the boy is not so fragile. Plus, Didn't she basically promise to give him a chance? Wang Tian laughed before continuing to drink. Old man, I won't forget today, said Wang Wei with gritted teeth. Instead, he received his father's laughter, followed by his grandfather, who joined in his misery. Yu Yen was speechless. These people seemed happier than her. The family had a small dinner while drinking, and Wang Wei cooked. How does it feel to be a sage? Asked Wang Wei after serving the food. Great. Everything feels like it will work out. Will that not affect you? Asked Wang Wei. Having such a mindset might be dangerous in the long run. No, as it's more of a passive afterthought, replied Yu Yen. Plus, the fusion has strengthened my willpower, Tao heart, and state of mind. That's good. Can you use it in battle? Asked Wang Tian. Yes. I can summon it as a defensive technique, and it's quite powerful, explained Yu Yen. But it lacks any attack abilities. I can burn the golden body to increase strength, but that's not recommended. I'm guessing the healing time for that golden body is a nightmare? Added Wang Tian. Yes, even worse than the lower class of emperors. Yu Yen shook her head. The amount of time she would need to heal her golden body if she used that secret technique is astronomical. Any other restrictions? Continued Wang Tian, slightly intrigued. I can't amass too many karmic sins, or I will lose it, but despite that, there are no other limits. That's fair, nodded Wang Tian. Wire, you said your mother was close to a Tier 2 golden body. Do you want to give her the merit for it? I was about to bring that up, nodded Wang Wei. What do you think? No need, replied Yu Yen. I have a plan. Do tell. I've been thinking about how to make our turn in the heavenly court after Wire, and I think I have an idea, said Yu Yen before explaining her plan. I had a similar idea, just for swordsmen, added Wang Tian with shining eyes. He looked at his son. What do you think? Both those ideas are worthy of patents, replied Wang Wei. However, Mom, you should do everything possible to prepare the Yu clan to hold this patent. I will. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1057 Battle of Darkness. The Tao opening sect will not allow anything to happen to the Yu clan, but they still need to be able to hold their weight. Additionally, after their departure, something like this patent was enough to cause a fallout between these two factions, so Wang Wei wanted to be prepared. Now I feel left out, said Wang Chang. These people were planning their reign as heavenly emperor, which made him realize he might be the only non-heavenly emperor in the family. And even if he becomes one, who knows how long in the future? Wang Tian placed his hands on his father's shoulder and gave him more drinks. Drown your sorrow with the wine. Wang Chang wanted to beat his son. What kind of weird method of reassurance was this? What? Can't hold your liquor, old man? Wang Chang saw the veins popping on his forehead. Okay, let's see who can't drink. That's more like it, said Wang Tian. Come on, son. Let's compete. I'm good, replied Wang Wei while giving him hints with his eyes. Today was about his mother. If these idiots get too drunk, who knows what they will do and say and possibly ruin things. Sadly, they were already too drunk to notice or realize. You're boring, said Wang Tian before drinking with his father. Wang Wei looked at his mother. I will stop them in time. Don't worry about it, let them enjoy themselves. After all, you will only share your secret staff without reservation on such rare occasions. Yu Yen did not mind as she also enjoyed her drinks at a more moderate pace. It's been a while since we got together and truly relaxed, she continued. We have been so busy with our lives and goals. I miss the old days. I do too, nodded Wang Wei. When do you think we will truly have peace and tranquility? Asked Yu Yen. Probably after truly reaching beyond the pinnacle of this universe, replied Wang Wei. But even then we might have different troubles. A sad truth, but a truth nonetheless, sighed Yu Yen. I sense you're a little sad. Is it because we can't go back to the past? That's not it, replied Yu Yen. I missed my mother and father. I always dreamt they would see the day I became an emperor. It's unfortunate. I can help you see them, said Wang Wei. I can summon a projection from the river of time, a projection from the time before their death. Or better yet, I can find their reincarnation and help them recuperate their past self-memories. Yu Yan thought for a few seconds. Forget it. Life is never perfect, so I'll accept the fact they will never see the current me. Well, it's your choice, replied Wang Wei, who was slightly glad he would not have to see that bastard Yu Yong. No matter how long has passed, he will never forget him for taking away his grandmother. It's been so long, haven't you forgotten and forgiven? Asked Yu Yan. Never, replied Wang Wei calmly. I've never seen this petty side of you. It's there but rarely comes out, replied Wang Wei, and Yu Yan could only shake her head. They changed the topic until a few minutes later, Wang Chang stumbled in their direction. Boy, how is the preparation for my battle going? I found the 9 Sons Emperor, but that's all I know so far, replied Wang Wei. The talisman he gave Yang Guowei indicated he had found his father, but no more information could be sent, given the distance between them. Until the next exchange with the rebellion, he won't know much. So, it's near, slurred Wang Chang. It seems I need to step up my training. He walked away to continue drinking. The party continued for a few days, and Wang Tian and Wang Chang drank so much that they lost their vision for more than a week afterward. When the party finished, Yu Yan sent a challenge to Ao Shin, even before preaching to the world. Void battlefield. The proud dragon appeared in this empty, all-white space. He looked at the woman opposite him and said, Your Majesty, and am giving you that level of respect simply because of your son. Do you want to use me as a stepping stone? You're overthinking things, Yu Yan replied calmly. We have the same Tao, so I thought our first battle would be best against each other. I think it would be a great learning experience, don't you think so? Ao Shin looked intently at her before his brow finally relaxed. You have a point. Then let's begin. He immediately activated his awakening, which took the form of black dragon theme armor around his body. His strength increased by 3%, followed by 2% of his Tao will, 5% for will manifestation, 2% for his flesh, and 3% for a source technique for his chaos bloodline. His proving Tao artifact had not been refined yet, and his soul was still ordinary, so this was the extent of his power. Yu Yan followed in his footsteps. Her awakening manifested as 2 pairs of dark wings floating behind her. However, the boost she received was only 2%, and her Tao will was also 2%, will manifestation was 3%, the fleshly body was another 3%, and 5% for proving Tao artifact. Her son gave her all the resources needed for an ultimate artifact. As Yu Yan felt the power coursing through her veins, she was satisfied, especially knowing she still had tremendous room for growth. She must still refine a Darkness Emperor soul and cultivate the force control skill to the highest level. Once she accomplishes these 2 things, her strength will rise another 2-fold. Not to mention the growth of her fleshy body, Tao will, and will manifestation. Let's begin, said Yu Yan. World of Darkness, a pure, raw, and untainted blackness soon replaced the power of void in this infinite battlefield. Affecting my senses with darkness? Aren't you underestimating me too much? Sneered Ao Shin as he used his power to see through this darkness. Little dragon, said a voice that echoed through the darkness. It seemed to originate simultaneously everywhere and at one specific point. The darkness is merely a passing point in your life. Your true passion and desire is chaos. So, how could you deal with someone who was raised by it, molded by it, and reveled in all its intricacies? Molded by darkness? You were a housewife all your life, but you dare make such a bold claim? Ao Shin opened his mouth to fire a powerful beam that would collapse this world of darkness. Unfortunately, his effort was futile. A powerful force hit him in the face, bending the armor on his face before sending him flying away, and before he reached far, he received thousands of attacks. Assimilation. Ao Shin reacted swiftly as he used his own Darkness Grand Tao source to assimilate with his opponent, trying to use her power for his. My analysis of you was correct, little dragon, Yu Yan's voice echoed. Don't you know there are different kinds of darkness? Ao Shin soon knew the meaning of these words. As he assimilated with her darkness, his soul was immediately assaulted by what he could only describe as the darkness of darkness. Darkness, at its essence, is only the absence of light, but other things are associated with it: sins, negative emotions, fears, and myriad other things. He then realized his opponent's darkness was divided into two parts. The purest part was used to isolate all his senses, while the other aspect served as a trap for when he tried to assimilate. She completely read me, thought Ao Shen as he used his Tao will and will manifestation to protect his soul and spirit. She immediately saw how my usage of darkness was not as pure as her because of my chaos bloodline and used that against me. Darkness swallow. Ao Shen's chest emanated a powerful devouring power, allowing him to swallow or devour his opponent's world of darkness swiftly. It seems I have to take this battle more seriously, he commented, looking her in the eyes. That is the bare minimum respect you should have shown me as an opponent. Sadly, you only saw the mother of the heavenly emperor before you. You're right, and I apologize for that. Ao Shen directly acknowledged his mistake. He had been so caught up in the world's politics that he had made such an obvious blunder. Since she's an opponent of equal strength, he should not have any reservations and go all out. Without hesitation, he transformed into a colossal dragon covered in black armor. Now I can use all my strength, he declared boldly. You're not the only one with a noble bloodline, rebutted Yu Yen before activating her pseudo-human fiend-god bloodline, still needs to reach 11th revolution, and her body grew to the same size as Ao Shen, along with tattoos on her right arms that resembled tribal markings. This fight might be more interesting than I originally thought, commented Ao Shen. I feel the same. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1058 Battle of Darkness 2. Demon Heart of Darkness. Ao Shen's eyes turned blood red as he used a technique to absorb all the negative emotions of his kind since ancient times. The demon has suffered immensely under the oppression of the human race, so the amount of negative emotions they produced over countless eras could not be described in simple words, and it brought the prideful dragon a significant boost in strength. This technique, thought Yu Yen, who realized this was a source technique that gave him another 2% boost. Additionally, she could tell this thing had much more potential for growth and development. Bang! Ao Shen's tail whipped her like she was an unproductive slave, breaking both sets of radius and ulna as she crossed her arms to block. Yu Yen immediately decided to distance herself from her opponent because she noticed the attack contained negative attacks that acted like corrosion, burning her skin, muscles, and flesh. In other words, her bones cracked due to the attack's force while she had to worry about the passive corrosion. Luckily, she was not so battle deficient and prevented her opponent's Tao will and will manifestation from entering her body. Ao Shen would not give her the distance she wanted, so he increased the speed of his tail attacks and used darkness to condense even more tails. Yu Yen evaded hundreds of them in less than a second, but she knew it was only a matter of time before she was overwhelmed. She acted decisively by detaching her two limbs from her body, forcing them to act like missiles. They rushed out of their sockets and flew toward two of Ao Shen's tails at unspeakable speed. Boom! Gravity repulsion bomb. Yu Yan's arms turned into black holes as soon they touched the tails before releasing a potent gravitational wave that pushed her opponent away. This act granted the breathing room she needed to regenerate her limbs while also getting away from his direct attack range. The soul's light after darkness. A terrifying darkness enveloped Yu Yan's sea of consciousness. Such darkness should have withered the soul or spirit with its power derived from fear of the unknown, but it had another purpose: strengthening it. By resisting the power of darkness, her soul reached a level of purity unlike anything before, manifested by the immense light released to block the darkness. Then, Yu Yen used a soul attack on her opponent. This technique was quite efficient on Ao Shen for a few reasons. One of his weaknesses is his ordinary soul, which Yu Yen knew and targeted. Secondly, she used her incomplete force control skill to acquire an additional 2% Grand Tao boost, thus elevating her power to the same level as the dragon. Blood dripped from Ao Shen's nose as this attack bypassed his soul defense. Dark side of the moon. A strange moon manifested in his sea of consciousness, releasing a significant amount of Yin energy that protected and healed his soul's injuries. Then, the moon hung above his primordial spirit, serving as its eternal guardian. Aoshin waved his claw, and black ink appeared. He used them to write the character, Suppression, in the void. Yu Yen immediately felt an unknown power that resembled gravity weighing on him to prevent her mobility. The power of ink? It should be a technique using Yangguowei's Chrome Dao, she swiftly analyzed. Countless thoughts flashed in her mind, thinking how to respond. She could use a similar technique with her understanding of Darkness Dao and how she once learned her son's technique. Emperor words are law. However, it's not the best move to counter this technique with a similar technique in this situation. If Aoshin were a much weaker opponent, this choice would be wise because it would also affect him psychologically, but now was not the best choice. While her mind was in overdrive trying to find a solution, Aoshin had already gone on the offensive. A jet-black sword materialized before his opened mouth and rushed toward Yu Yen with breakneck speed. The power of destruction? No, the darkness after the destruction of a world, hence the hint of destruction, she analyzed. Cosmos of infinite void. The universe was infinitely vast, and most was dark and empty space. Yu Yen took advantage of this fact to use Darkness Dao to control Spacetime Dao. She created an infinite cosmos before, so this sword of destruction would have to navigate the infinite space before it could reach her. She also applied this technique to a suppression ink technique. In other words, the power of suppression must pass through an infinite void before reaching her. Yu Yen protected herself and regained her freedom. Alas, Aoshin reacted even faster than normal. With a thought, he removed the darkness in this void, making it shrink faster than it can infinitely expand. A sneer appeared on the corner of the dragon's mouth. He had seen Wang Wei and Di Tian's fight in the dream world and fought against him. One of his defensive techniques was the same but using Space Dao. Aoshin had prepared how to deal with it, so Yu Yen did not stand a chance. Blind spot. The human retina has a spot where the optic nerves connect, and this area contains no light-sensitive cells, meaning no one can see. This area is called a blind spot, and humans do not see a black spot in their vision because of the brain's ability to guess or make up what is there. Aoshin's attack was based on this fact. Once he uses this technique, even extra senses, the divine sense, will be useful. 3 black spheres appeared out of nowhere and impaled Yu Yen. She never saw them coming. Her battle instinct made her body move independently, evading more of them. Her battle experience is higher than I originally gave her credit for, thought Aoshin, knowing that her movement cannot be learned or acquired without years of battle experience. He knew his opponent was smart by the intricate plan of her first attack, but intelligence was different from battle IQ and experience. Aoshin continued his attack, but it did not do as much damage as he had anticipated. His technique was not so easily dealt with, even if his opponent was a master of darkness. He included Soul/Spirit Dao from his Chaos bloodline in it. 2 more spears penetrated Yu Yan's defense before she realized using pure darkness was not enough to break this technique. Illumination. She raised her hand to manifest an intense light that dispersed any darkness-based technique in her surroundings. A light sub-Dao? Given your family, I should have expected as such, commented Aoshin. However, I'm still surprised. I thought you would be the kind that focuses on the purity of darkness and would never be associated with light Dao. How can I understand the essence of darkness without profound knowledge of its antithesis? Replied Yu Yen. She was not one of those swordsmen enamored with the idea of purity. So, light has always been one of her sub-Dao, especially since her goal has always been to combine light and darkness Dao to establish the best foundation for the Yu clan. The essence of darkness, huh? How about we see which of our darkness is the best? Fine by me. Aoshin immediately acted. A wave of darkness materialized around him. An old, even ancient, kind of darkness. One could describe this darkness as primal because it is the first form of darkness between heaven and earth. When primordial chaos had first formed and was slowly transitioning from a state of nothingness to a state of matter and energy, this was the form of darkness that existed. It could be argued as the first color that ever existed in the universe. Yu Yan did not want to be outdone as she released her darkness. It was not as ancient as her opponent, but it had its characteristics, eternal or everlasting. Before the universe materialized, darkness was prescient, and when it eventually ends, darkness will still exist. Darkness is eternal. The two different types of darkness clashed, turning the void battlefield into a black and white world. If this battle had occurred outside, the myriad emperor world would have been plunged into an incomprehensible darkness, scaring all sentient beings. The clash ended with Aoshin returning to his human shape and Yu Yan floating in the void with a pale face. "You won," she said. "That may be so, but your darkness still trumps mine," replied Aoshin. He was the final victor because of his strength, but the essence of his darkness was not on par with hers. It's understandable since, as she said, his heart was in his chaos bloodline. "A win is a win," said Yu Yan with a smile. She thanked him for the fight before disappearing. "Heavenly Court, what do you think?" asked Yu Yan. "It was a great fight," replied Wang Wei. "No need to sugarcoat it. Tell me the truth. Your battle experience is shoddy compared to the top genius of my generation," replied Wang Wei directly, not mincing his words. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1059 Next batch. "Is it that bad?" asked Yu Yan. "You didn't see it because this was not a life and death battle," continued Wang Wei. "Otherwise, Aoshin would have mistreated you even with the same strength. Of course, you wouldn't die with the golden body, but it would be a different story without it." Yu Yan was silent. She expected she would not be on par with the geniuses of this extraordinary generation. After all, she never participated in her Heaven Will battle and spent most of her time as a non-combatant. But she never thought the difference would be so vast. "How do you feel?" asked Wang Wei. "Sad, despite expecting this outcome," replied Yu Yan. "I never expected how much my role as a mother and housewife would affect me." She had a wry smile as she repeated Aoshin's derivative comment. "Regret it? No. I never regretted loving my family. And if I had the chance, I would still make the same choice." "But you wouldn't have given up your warrior side," added Wang Wei. "Exactly. I could have been all three, a mother, wife, and pinnacle warrior," nodded Yu Yan before sighing. Wang Wei agreed with her. "It's not too late." "True, so what advice do you have?" "First, you must know your potential exceeds Aoshin's." "Yes, but only because I'm your mother." "And what's wrong with that?" rebutted Wang Wei. "Without the Tao opening sect and the memories from my past life, I would never have today's accomplishments. As sad as it is, sometimes, birth is truly the determining factor for success." "You have a point." Wang Wei glanced at her and saw she had accepted this truth, at least enough not to let it bother her. "With the human fiend god bloodline, your body refining path will be smooth," he continued. "Aoshin trumped you in willpower manifestation because he had to fight against countless emperor imprints during his heaven path tribulation. I can recreate the same environment for you to temper your willpower. You can slowly train your Tao will until the 5% boost level, but the process is slow and tedious. It's best to wait until you re-established your foundation to 9 extremity, and you will naturally reach that level. You have the blueprint for the best possible Darkness Emperor soul and only need a rare material to speed up the process and ensure no issue. Lastly, it's the issue of battle IQ and experience." Wang Wei paused briefly. "You can use Li Jun's Battle Dream technique. It will be like you were using the battle tower every day without stopping. This should be enough to raise your battle experience to a higher level, but that's not enough. You also need the drive, ambition, and killing instinct of a top heaven chosen. I will also create a world for you to train." "A world like your father?" "I'm intrigued. Tell me more." "It will be designed for you to constantly fight and kill, starting from Immortal and through every cultivation stage. I will create top talents for you to fight. However, be warned that your memories will be modified to instill a sense of urgency. Knowing this is a training world and cannot die will affect the training process." "I'm fine with that," nodded Yu Yan. Will I have to restart cultivating or slowly awakening the strength I have now? Reawakening, replied Wang Wei. The objective is for you to be able to utilize your current strength beyond its limits, like a top heaven chosen. That makes sense. Yu Yan's eyes twinkled. Do you want to start now, or are you busy? I will start immediately. However, I recommend raising your battle experience before using this world. Otherwise, I doubt you will survive the later stages. Yu Yan accepted his advice. She chatted briefly before leaving. Her husband saw the fight and wanted to reassure her that one defeat meant nothing. She appreciated the sentiment but was not affected after the chat with her son. Wang Tian felt relieved his wife was not bothered, so he asked her to spend a few years of romance together. Yu Yan's mind was on her training, so she only agreed to a week, much to Wang Tian's chagrin. Meanwhile, Wang Wei did not waste time and immediately started creating the world for his mother. He designed the thing like a video game with difficulty. With all the emperor imprints he gathered for the battle tower, it was relatively easy to recreate the young version of many great emperors throughout history. So, in the most difficult setting of this world, his mother will have to fight against talents on the level of the absolute beginning emperor, Wu Hong, his father, himself, and many geniuses of his generation. Of course, he limited the power ceiling as the purpose was to train his mother's battle experience and IQ. The process took a few days because he wanted to be as meticulous as possible. Then, with a wave of his hand, the new world, inside a shining orb, teleported to his mother. Next, let's get busy, muttered Wang Wei. His next destination was the swallowing zone to check on the Genesis fruit. After nourishing it with the dream power gathered from an entire world community, the changes to the fruit were visible to the naked eye. Wang Wei was now convinced that once he spread the dream world to all 3,800 world communities, he should be able to gather enough energy to almost ripen this fruit. And if he considered the few immortal sovereigns he would feed it, there should be no problem to ripen it. His next destination was the Nether Hell. Wang Wei would often check on Old Man Nether and reinforce the seal. He did not want any trouble with his forbidden place until he was ready. After returning to the court, he sent invitations to different places across the endless void. Soon after, a portal opened before him, and a projection of wrath walked with many neo-devils behind her, including gluttony and a few members of the seven sins that survived the cleanup. Wang Wei was surprised as he thought she would not want these close friends/brothers and sisters to be entangled in such dangerous affairs. Are you sure our identity won't be an issue? Asked Wrath. Don't worry. If they don't want to accept you, I have already planned a backup to reimburse you. The initial instance of this chapter being available happened at N0V3L. BG. Wrath looked at him in the eyes. I'm trusting you with my family. Do you understand this? I do, and I won't let you down. Good. Wrath soon left after a few more words, and Wang Wei put these people away. A few minutes later, more great emperor projections appeared, with people following them. Soon, Tong Ruobing and Mu Lei, Ji Lanfang, Shi Qian, Shi Shangyan, and the Demon Suppression Emperor appeared. They had a long meeting to introduce everybody since they were in an alliance. They discussed many things, including trading between their worlds and communities, and set up rules for their military alliance. Once the meeting ended, most people dispersed. Ji Lanfang stayed because he wanted to see his friend, Wang Tian. It also helped his decision after Wang Wei told him his father had a special world that he would appreciate, and he was more correct than he thought. After meeting Wang Tian, Ji Lanfang also entered the swordsmanship world and did not want to leave. Luckily, he was a projection, or the people from his sect would have thought their heavenly emperor was abducted. Shi Shangyan briefly chatted with Wang Wei afterward, only telling him he sent her family the news, but there has been no response as of yet. The Demon Suppression Emperor asked for a tour of the Myriad Emperor world, and Wang Wei obliged. Shi Qian said she had something important to discuss but said she could wait until he had all his affairs in order, so she became a temporary guest in the court. Wang Wei summoned Wang Qi with the next batch of people to be trafficked to the upper dimension. Then, a few days later, Wang Qi returned with the resources in hand. There were no issues with the devil race? No, they didn't even ask, replied Wang Qi, and Wang Wei pondered. There were two reasons for this response. Firstly, the upper dimension is not as prejudiced against the devil race, or their history has long been forgotten or erased after the rise of these parasites. Maybe a combination of the two. He dismissed Wang Qi before checking the resources. As expected, he commented. According to his agreement with these people, the resource exchange is based on the talent of the individuals sent. After a preliminary analysis of the batch's talent, they will calculate what to send. Then, there will be additional rewards based on their performance after absorbing the heaven will. Last time, he sent the best of the best, so the reward was exceptional. After these people descended, they sent him the bonus, which was exceptional as everyone became Eternals. But this batch, the preliminary talent, could not compare to the former. Luckily, Wang Wei had made up for it with numbers. After putting things away, he took out something else. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1060 New Branch. Wang Wei had a bright smile as he read Wu Hong's letter. The content was simple. He only thanked her for the advice, and she replied that it was no problem. However, he cared more about the gesture's intent than the content. He carefully placed it away in the protected area of his space. He wouldn't write another letter for a while as he understood that haste makes waste. His plan for courting her again was not to initially be too intense and let nature take its course. Wang Wei summoned Xianxia in the garden. "You said you wanted to talk with me." "I need a favor," Xianxia said, "and am prepared to pay for it." "Go ahead," nodded Wang Wei as he served her tea. "As you may have already known, my father is one of the people I send to my group." "Found his reincarnation?" "Yes," nodded Xianxia. "I took this opportunity to strip him of his immortal essence so he could have a chance with the Emperor path." "Wise move." "The problem is my mother," continued Xianxia. "I also want her to change path." Wang Wei frowned. "If you want me to help you strip her of her immortal essence, that's beyond my ability. Without experiencing reincarnation, the other paths cannot change to the Emperor paths. This is one of the absolute rules of heaven and earth. That's why the transitioning method would not work for insurgents of the Tao, Immortal, and God path. It won't even work for Dong Lifen's Fortune Dynasty path." "No, I know that's impossible," said Xianxia, waving her arms. "I've convinced her to reincarnate, but we're both worried. I was wondering if you could help me accelerate her reincarnation." "Accelerate?" "Hafez. If possible, I want her to be born in the next 10,000 years." Wang Wei frowned as he sipped his tea. "Although I have the ability, I'm afraid I cannot help you." "Why?" asked Xianxia swiftly. "If you're worried about the remuneration, we can discuss a fair price." Wang Wei shook his head. "That's not the issue. I simply do not want to interfere in Samsara's affairs to such an extent." "Just for this?" Wang Wei sighed. "You simply do not know the terrifying secrets involved. If you did, you would be prudent like me." He also wanted to accelerate his grandfather's reincarnation so the family would be together. But the best he is willing to do is to bless him with ample luck so that he has no issue in his reincarnation and that he is reincarnated in Wang clan. Besides that, he did not interfere too much in the process. Xianxia pondered briefly before sighing. She knew Wang Wei was a reasonable person, so he must have his reason for rejecting her. "Is there anything you can do?" "I can allow her memories to return early and ensure she is born in the light race, but that's about it." "That's fine," she nodded. "I know people can reincarnate with a powerful artifact from their previous life to protect them. Do you know how?" Wang Wei pointed at her forehead and sent the information she wanted directly into her mind. "Thank you. As for compensation, I will?" "No need," said Wang Wei. "Consider it a favor from a friend. One day, if I'm in need, you can come to return it." Xianxia paused before cupping her hands to salute. "I will." Wang Wei watched Xianxia leave and prepare for his next meeting. However, before he even took a step, he felt something. He looked in the direction of the Western continent. Buddhism's Qi luck? Did something happen? The power of fate flashed in his eyes, and he saw the source of this change. Them. Wang Wei saw a distant world, and it was the place of origin of the two barbarian brothers and sisters from the deception trial. If I remember correctly, their names were Taoyui and Kudalin, among the earliest victims of Feng Heng's spread of Buddhism. He previously thought these brothers and sisters would eventually remove the influence Buddhism had on them, but he was only partially correct. The sister, Kudalin, did so, and she eventually proved the Tao and became an eternal emperor. Meanwhile, the brother remained religious. After the absolute beginning magic was no more, he began to spread Buddhism in their world and the lower realm. Then, he eventually found a merit-proving method while having the cognitive blockage in his mind removed. After years of meditation, he created a new branch of Buddhism, which granted him enough merit to prove the Tao and become the second eternal of his world. "Is this Tantric Buddhism?" muttered Wang Wei. There are many branches or philosophies of Buddhism, one of which is Tantric Buddhism, also called Vajrayana Buddhism. This form of Buddhism focused on a faster path of enlightenment through using tantras or sacred texts with instructions on rituals, meditation, and philosophic teachings. They also practice deity yoga, which involves visualizing Buddhas or deities to accelerate their path of enlightenment. And this is a simple definition, as Tantric Buddhism is more complex than stated. Wang Wei's deduction was correct, as Taoyui invented the Cultivation world version of Tantric Buddhism. Wang Wei waited, and as expected, Feng Heng soon came to visit him. "Did you see it?" he asked. "I did," nodded Wang Wei. "This poor monk wants to know your opinion. Tell me what you think first." Feng Heng paused. "Amitba. This poor monk does not like the core ideals of this practice. Visualizing other accomplished monks to accelerate the path to enlightenment is the same as people who rely on bloodlines. They can never reach the same level as their predecessors." "That's a fair point," nodded Wang Wei. "Then, there is the strict relationship between teacher and student. Buddhism should be more open-minded, otherwise, it's easy to abuse such a relationship or hierarchical structure." Wang Wei did not state his opinion. However, Feng Heng's words were the same criticism some scholars or other monks had of Tantric Buddhism on earth. Of course, no branch of Buddhism is perfect, and all have their criticism. Lastly, they seem to place strength and acquiring divine abilities above wisdom or becoming enlightened, continued Feng Heng. This poor monk could see why they made this choice, given the cutthroat nature of the cultivation world, but such a philosophy will only train warriors instead of monks. "So, what are you going to do?" asked Wang Wei, and Feng Heng looked confused. "This poor monk's first instinct is to stop them, but I know that's not the correct way. All religions or philosophies will branch out, and sometimes, these branches will be too far from the core ideas of the religion. That's inevitable, and it would be unwise to try to stop it. You should already have an idea of what to do, and you have my full support," said Wang Wei, and Feng Heng bowed before leaving. Now that he had acquired what he wanted, he swiftly returned to the Western Bliss sect and sent an invitation to the Vajrayana Buddha Emperor. He plans to debate scripture with the latter and win publicly. Then he will discuss how to prevent this new branch from deviating too far from the core ideologies of Buddhism. For example, after visualizing other Buddhas or deities, the Tantric monks must also visualize themselves to reduce the influence of others' paths. Monks on this path cannot be easily granted the monk title without a deep understanding of the Dharma. If they only have strength or divine abilities but not wisdom, they cannot be called monks. Feng Heng had many ideas and was still thinking of many more. This new branch is great news for the revival of Buddhism, but it's also a test. If not handled properly, the chances of them repeating the same mistake of their predecessors will drastically increase. Hopefully, this Buddha Emperor will be more understanding and not immediately resolve to violence, thought Feng Heng. He did not want any contradictions or strife between Buddhist branches. After the chat with Feng Heng, Wang Wei no longer paid attention to the changes in Buddhism. He had the idea of introducing this pair of brothers and sisters into his alliance but decided to wait to see how they handled Feng Heng's visit. He walked to Su Shi's palace, where the wonderful sound of the zither received him. "Still think it was unfortunate you did not major in the zither or sound Tao," he said as he walked inside. "What can I say? Fate chose a different path for me," she replied with a gentle smile, and Wang Wei scoffed at these words. Is it time? Asked Su Shi. Yes. She nodded. As I said previously, don't expect much. The martial hegemony world will not accept outside influence in the world, even a peaceful or cooperative one. I recommend expanding to another world. I know, but I must try, replied Wang Wei. Plus, the people want war, and I might as well give them one. Su Shi looked at him but did not say any more. She was already prepared and did not waste time to leave. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1061 Ambassador. Heavenly Court. While Wang Wei waited for news from Su Shi, he decided to read the cultivation system of the martial hegemony world for the who knows how many times. A world's cultivation system often reflects many things, and he wanted to see if he could be inspired to find a better solution for dealing with that world. The first step, as in most systems, was body tempering. The martial artists in this world began their cultivation journey by tempering their bodies and increasing their blood qi. The process was nothing exceptional, at least to Wang Wei's standard. The second realm was the inner strength realm, a form of qi that evolved from blood qi after combining it with the spiritual qi between heaven and earth and the meridians in the human body. The second realm had 3 stages: qi refining, meridian strengthening, and acupoints opening. Inner strength was a relatively weak qi, but its overall potency can be increased through purification, and strengthening the meridians and opening acupoints did so. The third realm is the inner core, and it was a realm similar to the origin system, where the qi used in this system was condensed into a core to increase its purity and potency. There is a high chance that Qiyuan was inspired by this cultivation system, given that the martial hegemony world was the closest world community to the myriad emperor world, and he should have traveled there. The fourth realm is the life realm. Martial artists convert the energy in their inner core into pure life energy. A martial artist's overall physical stats drastically increase as vitality increases, especially their regenerative abilities. The fifth realm is the death realm. The extreme of life is death, which is the basis of this cultivation stage. Once martial artists could no longer increase their life energy, they used the opposite, death energy, to temper their bodies and increase their strength. This realm is also necessary to balance the body with too much life or positive energy. Additionally, people in this world also have some death-related ability because of the death energy. The sixth realm is the nirvana realm or the life and death realm. Martial artists will use the constant evolution of life and death energy to break the limit of their bodies. This realm is very dangerous and must be traversed with extreme care. It's also the realm that best demonstrates a person's talent and foundation displayed by the number of nirvana a heaven-chosen survived. The seventh realm is the martial will realm. A martial artist must create his or her own martial art or train a previous one to a high enough level that his or her soul, spirit, and will sublimate to a higher level. The martial will manifests as a rune in their sea of consciousness. Some talented individuals will also be granted a heaven martial art, a created martial art that is so wonderful and perfect that heavenly Tao will bless it to make it unique and more powerful. The martial will/rune will turn golden as a sign that someone has a heaven martial art. Wang Wei noted that this realm is what makes this system unique or competitive to the best systems in the endless void. In just one realm, cultivators must condense their soul, temper their Tao heart. Without sufficient level, it's impossible to condense a martial will and begin to get involved with willpower. Martial artists in this system will find it easier to manifest their willpower because of this cultivation stage. The eighth realm is the enlightenment realm, a fancy way of saying the law comprehension realm. With their martial will, martial artists now have access to the laws of heaven and earth and can comprehend and wield them. Heaven martial arts will become even more powerful once they are fused with the power of law. The ninth realm is the golden body realm. This realm has changed over the history of the martial hegemony world. Previously, martial artists would use the laws of heaven and earth to baptize their bodies and elevate them to a higher level. However, this realm was eventually changed after knowing this would block their way to the true power Tao realm. The Golden Body realm now involves taking one martial art that a cultivator feels embodies themselves, their spirit, goals, and ambitions, and combining it with the laws of heaven and earth to manifest that martial art into reality. In other words, it's another version of the Dharma body. The Golden Body has 5 divisions: brass, copper, iron, silver, and gold. Iron is the minimum requirement to hold the heaven will. Martial artists in this system can fuse with the Golden Body to become quasi-emperors. Using the rotation of life, yin, and death, yang, to temper the body? It would probably help to add it to the training regiment, muttered Wang Wei. Martial Hegemony World. After leaving the court, Su Shi visited the academy briefly before heading in her direction. With a few steps, she crossed the separation between world communities and arrived at her destination. Su Shi pondered the best approach as she looked over this world that shared much of her rise and history. As a sign of respect, she decided not to barge in directly but released her aura and waited. Not long afterward, 3 individuals showed up, 2 men and 1 woman. The man in the middle was thin with long arms, a scar on his neck, and wearing blue. On his right was a middle-aged woman in black tight-fitting martial clothes. She was extremely fit as her arms were toned and muscular. She wore iron gloves. The one on the left was a young man with one of those sinister faces or smiles and a saber hanging on his waist. It did not help that he was wearing deep greens that reminded people of poison. 1 eternal and 2 immortal sovereigns, thought Su Shi, who knew of this information since Wang Wei did not want her to go in blind and she had her own information system. As such, she knew these people had only recently appeared, which was most likely the result of the balance mechanism. Her eyes focused on the thin man in the middle. Dual Axe Xianxia, long time no see. It's you, said the thin man as he instinctively touched the scar on his neck. Although it took him a moment to recognize her since she never appeared without a face cover, he would never forget that voice or the temperament of the woman who scarred his body and gave him the greatest humiliation in his life. Xianxia's eyes went red momentarily before he said with gritted teeth, "Why are you here? Why the hostility? You can't still be bitter about your defeat?" "I am not prideful enough not to let one defeat regulate my life," said Xianxia. "But you come to our world, take our heaven's will, and abandon your status as a citizen without hesitation. Do you think you would still be welcome?" "That's fair," sighed Su Shi. She told Wang Wei this would happen. Unfortunately, only she and Aoshan have any connection to the martial hegemony world, and the dragon only has terrible memories from there and refuses the offer to be the ambassador. "Why are you here?" asked Xianxia, trying very hard to regulate his emotions and control himself. "I came on behalf of the myriad emperor world's heavenly court. I need to discuss." Su Shi had not even finished her words when Xianxia summoned his Proving Dao artifact 2 axes. His golden body was based on an axe-wielding martial art he created, so he used the axe part as his Proving Dao artifact. Without hesitation, he appeared before her and slashed down. The sheer power of his attack split the endless void full of chaotic space-time energy. However, Su Shi calmly evaded while frowning. "Why did you attack me without words?" "Although I did not want to believe it, the rumors were true," said Xianxia with glowing red eyes. "You've returned with the intention of invading us. What rumors are you talking about?" "So, your first instinct is not to refute the claim but to want to find the source," sneered the female immortal sovereign, known as Lightning Fist. "There is no need to say all these words with a foreigner. So, let's just cut her up into pieces," added the snake saber immortal sovereign, licking his saber while looking at Su Shi with dangerous eyes. "I'm just trying to prevent any contradictions." "Can you look me in the eyes and tell me you're not here to invade?" asked Xianxia, and Su Shi paused. "Depends on how you respond to my message." "I knew it," yelled Xianxia before attacking again. Su Shi calmly evaded while explaining, "Listen to my words first." "No need. All of you invaders are the same," countered Xianxia, relentless in his attack. Sadly, he and Su Shi seemed to have an obvious speed disparity. "Come together," he ordered, and the others joined the fight. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1062 Reasonable Stubbornness. Lightning Fist gathered all her immortal chi and converted them into lightning and thunder that surrounded her hands. Then, with unparalleled speed, she rushed toward Su Shi and punched her 1,000,000,000 times in less than an attosecond. Meanwhile, the Void Time Empress calmly evaded these punches without a single piece of perspiration on her forehead, looking as elegant as always. Additionally, Su Shi raised her 2 fingers and, with a swift motion, blocked Xianxia's axe, pushing him a dozen meters away. Snake's saber perfectly times his attack. According to his calculations, Su Shi should not have had time to respond as her focus and strength were on someone else. So, his eyes glowed with excitement as he envisioned the beautiful sight of his saber cutting through her beautiful flesh. Sadly for him, his saber passed through her as if she had never existed. He then remembered that this woman controlled a powerful law. He clicked his tongue before retreating to the back. His way of fighting involved fighting his opponent's flaw and attacking at the perfect opportunity. "You should understand that this battle is pointless," said Su Shi, her voice calm yet powerful. "So, why don't you listen to my words before fighting? It seems you've become even more arrogant since we last met," sneered Xianxia. "I'm just showing you the vast difference between us," replied Su Shi. "And my power still pales in comparison to him. You can talk to me, but no one can resist once he descends." Xianxia and the others frowned, but the axe wielder's facial expression soon returned to his resolute self. "It doesn't matter who our enemy is. Our martial hegemony world has enough of foreign powers intervening in the sovereignty of our world. So, we will fight until the last one stands. Then you will all die as fools. Death is better than subjugation," countered Xianxia as he raised his axes. "I've prepared this technique for you. I hope you can block it." Space-time cleaving, he rushed toward him, and his long right arm swung the axe with such ease that it was as if it were made out of air. More importantly, the axe contained a unique momentum with the sole purpose of cleaving time itself into 2. Su Shi did not bat an eye. Over the past 10,000 years, her strength has reached the peak of the 4-fold battle realm and almost reached 5-fold. After years of study, she has also changed her battle style, incorporating her musical talent and aesthetic from her younger years. A string that resembled one from a guqin materialized before her, but this thing was far from simple. In simple terms, it was not a string, but time itself manifested in the shape of a string. Xianxia's axe hit the string, but nothing happened. He did not cleave time as he wished. The Axe Overlord Emperor, a title used because Dual Axe Emperor was already taken, facial expression contorted before releasing his second axe. His martial art and even law followed a unique principle. The second axe is always more powerful than the first one, unless he needs to use feint and prevent his enemy from reading his attacks. Xianxia mobilized his Grand Dao Source and all his boosts for the second axe, and his effort was rewarded by bending the string slightly due to the force of his attack. However, that was the extent of his attack. "Impossible!" Su Shi did not say a word. A string is naturally fragile, but there are ways to increase its tensile strength, like coiling it. So, she applied the same idea to this string of time. A regular string of time was enough for Xianxia's 2-fold power, let alone this one. Lightning Fist did not give up. She rushed towards Su Shi with lightning dragons around both her arms. Madness flashed in her eyes, indicating she was willing to sacrifice her life for a clean hit with devastating effects. Alas, the difference between them was too vast. Su Shi plucked her string, releasing a terrifying vibration that extinguished her lightning and sent her flying a few thousand light-years away. Snake's saber also took this opportunity to attack. He went above and beyond, using his best technique. His saber not only attacked at the best opportunity but also targeted his opponent's weak spot. In Su Shi's case, where there were no obvious weak points, his technique allowed him to create one. Su Shi glanced at him. "Weight of time. Does time have weight?" "No, but in the hands of this empress, its fundamental laws can be twisted or weaved as she sees fit." So, she changed time itself to behave like physical objects with the proper density, mass, and weight and had Snake's saber bear the brunt. The evil-looking young man was forced to kneel in the void as his face contorted harsher than a twister. In the end, he exploded his body and regenerated in the distance to get away from her and this technique. Do you understand now? Asked Su Shi. This is a losing fight. Why don't you listen to me first before we start fighting? Am I still breathing? Asked Xianxia, and Su Shi did not answer. Then this fight is over. At this point, your stubbornness is annoying, Su Shi frowned. You see it as stubbornness, but we see it as fighting for our world's rights, for the people's voice, for the right to control our fate, no matter what it eventually becomes. No one will take your rights, countered Su Shi. I'm here more of a business opportunity. Before the celestial harmony world invaded us, they said they only wanted to spread Taoism. But what happened? They controlled us for an entire era, committing who knows how many tragedies, sneered Xianxia. It seems I have to restrain you before you can talk, Su Shi sighed. Finally showing your conqueror mindset. Sneered Lightning Fist, who had returned to her position. Su Shi was calm, and with one thought, all the chaotic space-time energy in the endless void became docile and available for her use. These martial artists became frightened as they realized the world around them had drastically slowed down, and they could not move no matter what they tried. With her hands behind her back, Su Shi slowly walked toward them, her step bouncing off the void. Less than a meter from their faces, she pointed her jade-like fingers, and a rune appeared on their forehead, sealing all their strength and power. Without her control, they would have fallen off from the void as they lost their ability to fly. Now we can talk properly, uttered Su Shi. For starters, why don't you tell me where you heard the words we were going to invade your world? I have nothing to say to you. Xianxia, you should understand I have shown enough restraint, continued Su Shi. Otherwise, I could get the information from your soul, and there is nothing you can do to stop me. So, don't make things harder than they have to. You. Xianxia looked at her with pure hatred. It's from the Commerce Hub, isn't it? Asked Su Shi. So what if it is? Don't you see they are using you as pawns? Of course I do. I'm not stupid, replied Xianxia. After knowing the importance of the myriad emperor world, I knew many eyes would be on us because of our locations. However, this does not change the fact that their information was correct. For the last time, we're not here to invade. Then why are you here? Have you heard of the Heavenly Court? Xianxia frowned. I've heard some information, but the Commerce Hub seemed determined to limit the spread of this information. That's not normal since they don't want His Majesty to get more powerful through the patent fee, nodded Su Shi. Let me explain. She told them about the court and its setup, explaining that their world would not intervene in their court or hold any positions. However, they must work together to spread things like the mortal civilizations, demon school, dream world, and enlightening temple. These are just the obvious effects of our alliance, but there are more, finished Su Shi. Why do we need your help to do all these things? Asked Xianxia. Because they are our ideas, our inventions, countered Su Shi. Fair point, nodded the Axe Overlord Emperor. Let me say in another way, why should our world change? What if we want to preserve our way of life and our culture? Su Shi stopped herself from saying because her ways were better and more developed. Don't you think about the benefit? I am indeed tempted, but I care more about preserving our martial way of life, especially after those Taoist priests tried to eradicate us. The world does not need rapid changes but recuperation of our culture and ways. Xianxia knew future emperors might feel differently and establish a heavenly court, but this path was not for him. It went against his ideals and beliefs of how the world needed to recuperate. Su Shi looked at him before looking at the other two. She saw the same convictions in those eyes, meaning it would be pointless to bypass Xianxia. She sighed heavily. I admire your conviction. Sadly, His Majesty is determined to bring the lower dimension to the heavenly court era. Su Shi waved her hand to free them. Consider this a gift for granting me the opportunity to prove the Tao, she said. And as a last act of kindness, I won't participate in this upcoming war. But be warned, our world has more than 4 eternal emperors, all of whom are close to my strength or vastly surpass me. Be prepared. She disappeared from their sight, returning to the myriad emperor world. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1063 War Preparations. Xianxia sat on a throne with only Lightning Fist and Snake Saber beside him. He felt humiliated but, more importantly, worried about the future of his world. Thinking that they might suffer the same fate they have only recently eliminated filled him with anxiety. "What should we do?" asked Lightning Fist. Xianxia groaned. "We must summon everybody and prepare for war." "Should we embellish the truth a little?" asked Snake Saber. "After all, she easily embarrassed us. Looking too weak may not be good." The room was quiet, and the silence spoke many words. However, after a few seconds, Xianxia shook his head. "As tempting as that is, we don't want our people to underestimate our enemies. On the contrary, we should probably make things worse, instill fear to ensure they band together to face this upcoming threat. But too much fear might have an adverse effect," countered Lightning Fist. "Indeed," groaned Xianxia. "If the people are too afraid, this might lead to destroying their fighting spirit instead of rallying them. Additionally, some people might do stupid things in the midst of despair. In that case, well, tell the truth." The two hurriedly summoned all the Emperor, Dao, and Immortal lineage of the world. The world was shocked and wondered what was happening. Was the Palm Peak sect going to do something? Although they had only cultivated their fourth great emperor, with the Axe Overlord as an eternal, they now had the power to change the world's political landscape. The invitation also originated from the Iron Fist Gang and the Moon Saber Pavilion, two factions that recently gave birth to immortal sovereigns. As such, some people believed these three factions might have allied to do something major. Every martial artist felt Wulian, martial art world, was about to change. While on guard, representatives from different factions attended the meeting. However, no one was prepared for the truth. As soon as everyone was present, Xianxia did not hesitate to drop the bombshell. He told the truth about Su Shi's appearance and the upcoming invasion. "So, the rumors were true," muttered someone. "I'm afraid so," nodded Xianxia. "So, what should we do?" No one had an answer. It has only been over 200 generations since the Celestial Harmony era ended and the reviving martial art era started. 200 generations is a long time for mortals, but not nearly enough for all the surviving factions of this world to recuperate, let alone increase their strength. Besides the current three with eternal class powerhouses, only two factions could be classified as completely recuperated. The Rising Dragon sect, a new sect with two emperors, was allowed to keep such a domineering name because of their founder, the dragon-subduing emperor. He was the supreme martial artist responsible for ending the reign of the Celestial Harmony world. He led the charge against them, slaughtering every last bit of influence they had in the martial hegemony world. He even led a successful attack on their homeworld. Sadly for him, the Celestial Harmony world contained many lineages with deep connections in the upper echelons of the commerce hub. With this power, they gathered countless eternal class powerhouses to gang up on him. The dragon-subduing emperor was not a powerful eternal. He would have died instead of severely injured. The martial hegemony world was lucky to have a man of conviction like him. After that event, he did not stop his campaign against his aggressor. He used his regenerative abilities and the fact they could not easily gather so much power to wage guerrilla warfare on the Celestial Harmony world. After years of sneak attack and killing many people, he forced them to sign a binding peace treaty that granted this world true freedom. The second faction was the Celestial Demon Cult. They are a new sect in this new era, but in the short 200 generations, they cultivated 7 great emperors, 5 of whom were pseudo-eternals. Many people believed the spirit of the epic belonged to them in this era, and it was a matter of time before they cultivated an eternal emperor. No, they would have succeeded if it were not for Su Shi killing their heaven-chosen in this generation's battle. "We must fight," said the Red-Eyed Demon, the representative of the Celestial Demon Cult. "Our cult is willing to be the vanguard for this battle. It's our chance to avenge our cult leader. However, we want something in return." Everyone, including Xianxia, frowned. However, they soon realized it was normal for these guys to ask something. They were not called a demonic cult for no reason. "What's your request?" asked Xianxia. "We want you to revive our cult leader and help him prove the Tao." Countless murmurs echoed in the background, and Xianheng's brow was furrowed. I understand reviving him, but how can I help him prove the Tao? Their world was lucky. After Su Shi took away the heaven will, another one appeared because someone discovered a rare void beast cemetery containing hundreds of well-preserved void beasts, many of whom were tier 10. Their essence fused with the world and increased its world source to the point of condensing a second heaven will. Isn't it obvious? The outsiders showed us a way, said the red-eyed demon. You mean the heavenly court? Correct. I have no desire to establish a court and rule over people, explained Xianheng. You no longer have a choice, replied the demon with a sneer. We are about to face an invasion, and the court is the best way to organize the power of the entire world. It's also the best way to increase our strength and have a chance at surviving this war. The room became silent. Although they did not want to admit it, they knew he was telling the truth. The world is relatively harmonious when dealing with foreign threats. However, this does not change the fact that they have been fighting and competing with each other for the past 200 generations, leading to many contradictions and animosity. The court was the perfect setting to create a proper political structure. Only you can sit in that position without overwhelming opposition from different factions, continued the red-eyed demon. So, all we want is for you to gather enough merit for our cult leader. How is merit going to help? Asked someone. None of your business. Xianheng pondered. He was not as misinformed as the person who asked the questions. Merit is one of the few omnipotent resources in the world. But how much is needed to acquire a heaven will? His intuition as a martial artist warned him he was missing a significant piece of this mystery. And what if I refuse your request? Asked Xianheng. Then you will know why we considered ourselves a demonic cult. Xianheng released an intense killing intent, turning the room red in a matter of seconds. However, the red-eye demon remained calm, with a smirk, almost a sneer, on the corner of his mouth. Xianheng secretly sighed before focusing on everyone else. What do you guys think? He asked. If I'm to gather merit for them, it will be from everyone's share. No one said anything for a while, making the situation embarrassing. Luckily, Snake Confining Hand, Kang Han, the representative of the Rising Dragon sect, said, I agree. Our world is facing a catastrophe, and the appearance of a second Eternal, especially one as talented as the former cult leader, might be what saves us. Since the Rising Dragon sect spoke, everyone soon followed and agreed. The sect has settled its legacy as a faction of justice and honor for many years. Others decided to follow suit since they were willing to abandon their benefit for the greater good. Then it's decided, declared Xianheng. I will need you to activate the World Protection Array. No problem, nodded Kang Han. I will prepare everything for the court, continued Xianheng. Everyone immediately gathers resources, your legions, disciples, elders, and wake up the sleeping ancestors. Once the court is established, we will pool all our strength together for this upcoming war. Xianheng sighed deeply. Remember, our freedom and the fate of our world are on the line. With a heavy burden, all the factions dispersed to prepare for this war. Kang Han immediately visited his sect master, and his first words were, we need to activate the ancestors' trial. The sect master, a thin old man with black clothes too big for him and ridden with scars, looked at him in shock. One of their sect's biggest secrets was that the ancestor's body had so much injury by the time the Celestial Harmony World signed the treaty that he deemed it more efficient to build another one instead of healing it. So, he left it to the sect and ascended with his soul. The ancestors' trial was a backhand left by the ancestors to cultivate an eternal class powerhouse by absorbing his body. However, the dragon subduing emperor warned them only to use this trial unless it was a last resort. What happened? Kang Han explained the situation, and the sect master accepted his proposal. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1064 Fifth Court Meeting. Wang Wei closed the book in his hand when he detected Su Shi's arrival. He glanced at her and said, I'm guessing by the reservation in your step that things did not go well? Sadly, no, replied Su Shi before explaining the situation. I would also like to apologize for releasing them and giving them a fighting chance. It's fine, replied Wang Wei. There was nothing wrong with Su Shi feeling indebted to these people and doing an act of kindness for her peace of mind and to repay her karma. So, what's next? Are you going to subdue them? No, I won't intervene unless absolutely necessary, replied Wang Wei. His existence offset the balance of the entire lower dimension. So, if he wants to stay in the lower dimension long enough to reach the Empyrean realm, he needs to act as little as possible to not get on true heavenly Daos nerves and get exiled to the upper dimension. Su Shi did not know how to feel about this news. If Wang Wei acted, the war would be swift, and there would be little to zero casualties. However, without him, the martial hegemony world still has a slight chance of achieving something in this war, even if it's just a display to the rest of the endless void that they were people of iron will and did not bow down to anyone. Feeling sympathetic? Asked Wang Wei. Yes. She had long been accustomed to the cruelty of the cultivation world. She knows the motto might be right. However, she still felt bad for the martial hegemony world because of her connection with them for proving the Tao there. I would love to promise you that the casualties will be minimized, said Wang Wei. Unfortunately, they are martial artists and people with extreme aversion to foreign powers. Many of them will fight to their death. I understand. Su Shi bowed politely before leaving. Wang Wei looked in the distance. Was the upcoming invasion wrong? Of course it was. No act of war or aggression is ever morally justified. Unfortunately for the martial hegemony world, and maybe for him, he had long escaped the shackles of his morality. At this point in his cultivation journey, even extremely deplorable things will be used if it is the only way to achieve his goals and ambitions. Wang Wei's gaze shifted to a white and gold bell in the northern hemisphere of the court. With a thought, it began to ring, and its sound echoed worldwide. As soon as people heard it, they knew what it meant. The fifth court meeting will soon occur. Specifically, based on the bell's sound, it will occur 2 days later. 2 days later, everyone showed up except for Yu Yan. She needs to reduce her exposure in this era so that she won't have any problems ruling in the next with Wang Tian. As such, she will not participate in most events and slowly fade from the mind or view of the populace. Everyone soon walked into the throne room, which was decorated with gold and purple. They bowed politely, and Wang Wei called them to rise. He took a moment to let everyone in the room settle in before beginning. Let's get straight into business, said Wang Wei. Our next expansion will be the martial hegemony world. As soon as he said these words, Wang Wei could hear the sound of breathing becoming rapid. He saw the side glances of many representatives, and he sensed the divine sense of communication between many individuals. Don't be too excited yet. Although we will expand, the court positions will no longer be part of the expansion. You can create your own court in another world if you want more positions. But you will no longer be a member of this court, so no protection, continuing receiving benefits, and your previous positions will be revoked. People began to discuss the meaning of these words. They had prepared for this upcoming war, but now, the Heavenly Emperor told them there would be no benefit. Who wants to work for no benefit? So far, the Heavenly Emperor's mode of operation was everybody gets a piece of the pie. Was he about to change? Was everything before an illusion to lure them into a sense of ease before showing his true self and pouncing on them like the true predator he was? Was his true self about to be revealed? Many thoughts flashed in these people's minds before someone was brave enough to ask the obvious question, Your Majesty, if the god positions are no longer part of the expansion, what is? That's a good question, said Wang Wei calmly. I won't mention the obvious benefit of having communication and trade opportunities with another world community. Those long-term benefits are not enough to appeal to many of you. Some representatives with thin skin blushed but said nothing as this was true. The mortal civilizations and demon school will be the main source of merit and reward for this expansion. Based on previous policies, you still need to leave some rewards for the native, and an appropriate charter, created by our General Affairs Department leader, will be handed out near the end of the meeting. In Wang Wei's opinion, Taoist Evergreen's work has been more than excellent, reducing the stress and time he has to spend on court affairs. Secondly, he continued, although the entire martial hegemony world community is large enough to share, their world itself is limited, so not everyone can be included in meddling in its affairs. Wang Wei waved his hand to manifest the merit point lists and something called military point lists. Unfortunately, the martial hegemony world has declined peaceful negotiations to settle this expansion. So we must wage war. He pointed at the military point lists. People who participate in the war can gather military points or merits. The top 5 individuals will be chosen to deal with the affairs of the martial hegemony world. The top 30 will be granted priority and preferential treatments for the expansion into the lower realm. Those representatives' eyes glow with greed and lust. They now know there are still plenty of benefits, and that's all that matters. The wiser one even understood why the Heavenly Emperor chose this path. With his strength, there should be no issue with conquering the lower dimension and spreading the court's influence to every corner of the endless void. But what about after he leaves? With no absolute strength to suppress everything, these worlds will revolt and enact their vengeance on the myriad Emperor world. It won't take 5 generations before their world was completely wiped out by a coalition of thousands of Heavenwell worlds and their respective communities. The merit point list has been updated. What you do in other worlds will garner you points, but the price is only a tenth of that at home. People frowned but realized it made sense. Their previous actions benefited the myriad Emperor world, but now, they would benefit the heavenly Tao of another world. There was probably some exchange between these two worlds' heavenly Tao, hence why they were receiving any reward in the first place. New benefits have been added to the exchange list, continued Wang Wei. The court has a new formation, the Immortal Qi Refining Array. Immortal sovereigns can link their mansion to an emperor formation that accelerates the speed of refining Qi. The top emperor lineages were finally paying true attention. This formation has 3 tiers, gold, silver, and iron. Each tier is better than the other but also more expensive. Wang Wei saw the jovial expression of these people, including the ones who tried to hide it. He secretly sneered before dropping cold water on them. Only the top 100 in the military list can use the gold tier, the top 500 can use the silver tier, and there are no limits for the iron tier. Wang Wei previously wanted to limit all tiers but decided otherwise. After all, it's not good if the world has too many immortal sovereigns. However, the iron tier is still extremely slow to cultivate tier 11 powerhouses, so he used it as a luring piece of meat for most factions, giving them a false sense of hope. Wang Wei looked at these people's reactions, and he secretly sneered. He was once a capitalist, so he knows many ways to get the masses to work for him and make him more money. With this system that looks like a meritocracy but is actually an oligarchy, he has hoped to gather all the resources and merit necessary to achieve his goals and ambitions. Next, I will establish a war room, and you need to send your best military strategic minds or advisors to overview this war. Their service will contribute to your military points. Although Wang Wei was confident he would win, he also did not want to take any risks. So, he must have the best mind overseeing this war to ensure success. Finally, I need 2 Eternals or 4 Immortal Sovereigns to overview this war and deal with the enemy's top powerhouses. Who volunteers? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1065 First Planar War, I am, said Ao Shen, who immediately stepped forward. He did not hide the killing intent in his eyes. When he was in the martial hegemony world, those bastard martial artists hunted him relentlessly, especially the people from the Rising Dragon sect. They wanted to use his blood, body, and soul to cultivate their dragon-subduing scripture to a level on par with their ancestors. Now that he had a chance at revenge, he would not hesitate. Are you sure? Asked Wang Wei. From his knowledge, Ao Shen should still be in the process of refining his artifact and focusing on increasing his strength. I am. Wang Wei secretly groaned. He did not want the demon race to be the vanguard of this war, as a tiny part of him still wanted to convince the martial hegemony world to surrender after seeing how pointless it was to fight. Adding demon and human relationship to the situation might complicate things. However, after thinking about it for a while, he realized such thinking was pointless. This war is an issue of worlds against worlds, not the human race against other races. Very well. I will also participate, said Huafeng Huang, offering her services. This war was the first step in their ancient clan's revival, so she wanted to go out and get as many benefits as possible. In the future, after other world communities see it's impossible to stop their expansion, many worlds will not resist, and the Heavenly Emperor is prone to using diplomatic means instead of war. As such, Huafeng Huang plans to participate in all the wars to benefit. Excellent. What about you too? Wang Wei looked at Feng Heng and Su Shi. The more the merrier. I want this war to end as soon as possible. My apologies, but with my relationship with the martial hegemony world, it's best that I don't participate, replied Su Shi, who cupped her hands and bowed. She would also prevent the academy from sending their legions and people if it were up to her. However, she understood the benefits of this war, so she did not stop them. This poor monk will not participate personally, but I will send sect members to partake and assist, replied Feng Heng while playing with his prayer beads. His focus was now on this new branch of Buddhism, so he had no time for war despite the obvious benefits. Honestly speaking, he was against participating in this war since he did not want his monks to have too much karma. Sadly, he knew he would receive criticism if he did not send people. Some would accuse him of preserving strength and making a big deal of the situation. Lastly, many sect members do not want to give up the benefits. That's fine, nodded Wang Wei before looking at the two immortal sovereigns. What about you? The sea race will send people, but I will not participate. I have no issue participating, but I don't think they need my help, replied Xianxia, smiling wryly. He noticed Huafeng Huang's gaze ever since he walked into this room. He feared this woman would secretly plot to kill him during this war, so he used this excuse to excuse himself while also telling the Heavenly Emperor he was indeed interested. Wang Wei's eyes looked at him before shifting to the calm Huafeng Huang and back to him. You can be the backup. You will be the first to be called up if something unexpected occurs. Your Majesty is wise. Now that we have our top powerhouses, let's discuss the issue of legion and battle deployment, continued Wang Wei. I have elected a battlefield commander based on the military legion list. With a motion of his hand, someone walked to the front of the room. Tai Gang. Tai Gang bowed politely to the room before waving his wand to show a projection. The enemy will now allow us to descend into their world, and it will not be easy to bypass their world protection formation, stated Tai Gang. If his boss would intervene, this would not be a problem, but that's not going to happen, unfortunately. As such, the first battle will occur in the void outside the martial hegemony world, so your legion must be composed of at least primordial spirit realm cultivators, and formation must be used to keep them alive. Many people listened intently as they did not consider this aspect. They immediately realized that interplanar wars were not simple. The myriad emperor world has been isolated from the endless void for far too long and is now less experienced in this kind of warfare. The battlefield will be divided into 4 layers, each separated by a formation, continued Tai Gang, manifesting a visual projection similar to holograms of 4 layers. At the bottom is where all the legions will confront each other. The second layer is for mortal combatants who do not want to be restrained by the army's strict discipline. The third layer is for immortal combatants, and the last is for the eternal class powerhouses. Any questions? Yes, I have one, asked a representative. What if the enemy does not attend the corresponding layer? That's what the formations are for. They will filter individuals and place them in the correct layer. What if they destroy the formation? The formations are not so easy to destroy, especially since each layer is a well-crafted world. And if you do your job correctly, the enemy won't have the time or opportunity to destroy them, replied Tai Gang. Anything else? A few people had more questions and Tai Gang answered all of them. Finally, he said, we will discuss a new plan once we break their defense and enter their world. Lastly, we will deploy a week later. Be prepared. Isn't that a little too short? No, on the contrary, it's too long, replied Tai Gang. With time dilation, after 7 days, More than 3 months will have passed in the enemy's world. This fact slipped the minds of many people. So now they realize how little time they have. A few wiser representatives looked at the Heavenly Emperor, hoping he would do something about this issue. However, Wang Wei remained the same, taking the position that he would not interfere unless absolutely necessary. Many people felt relieved by this fact since his presence would mean the job would be done instantly, leaving nothing for them. Tai Gang took his position back in the assembly, and Wang Wei continued the meeting. All professionals of Earth rank will meet in the dream world. You will work with the cauldrons to refine materials for this war. Will the dream world have new functions? Thought Su sure, and she was not the only person who noticed this slip of information. The resources used in this war will not be counted as military merit, but someone will record the amount, and everyone will be reimbursed afterward, continued Wang Wei. I believe this is it for now unless someone has any questions or concerns? No one had any questions since everything was straightforward or already explained. So, Wang Wei waved his hand to send them the information from Taoist Evergreen about how to treat the natives once this world is conquered. A few parting words, said Wang Wei. This war will be our official return to the endless void after too long. We cannot fail, especially due to infighting. Am I understood? Yes, Your Majesty. Wang Wei dismissed everybody while waiting for things to be set in place. He had many objectives for this war, including gathering enough data about the interplanar war and adding it to the battle tower. Then, everybody can stimulate other wars to be as fast and efficient as possible in the other expansions. So, he was prepared to use different tactics and even hoped the martial hegemony world would put up more of a fight so he could collect more data. Soon after the meeting's end, countless military strategists arrived in the court to participate in the war room. A formation that would broadcast a live feed of the war had already been established. The professionals had also organized and began working. The cauldrons were activated to the highest level. Since they contained a large world inside, they could refine more than one pill at a time. Each profession chose an insurgent tier powerhouse as their manager to ensure high productivity. The whole world entered a state of mobilization, and that includes mortals. They wanted to participate in lower-tier battles, Tier 1 to 4, and many people began to voice their opinions in the dream world, hoping the Heavenly Emperor would hear them. The Mortal Craft and Art Dao clans remained quiet since they could not participate in this fight. Their world was essentially invading another, so they could not use their power from the temple in such an act of aggression. As such, they can only remain quiet on the sideline. Of course, not everyone remained quiet. Many scholars or philosophers condemned this invasion, writing poems, articles, essays, and books condemning the Heavenly Emperor's actions. Wang Wei noticed them as there were many small-scale visions from these written words. These people reminded him of Confucianists from Earth who would condemn the emperor for his actions, forcing the latter to kill them. Their purpose is to leave a name in history and ruin the reputation of the emperor for all eternity. These families had the same mindset but did not realize he could wipe them out of history so that no one would ever remember them. Ultimately, Wang Wei just ignored them as their actions had no effect. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1066 First Planar War, 2. Wang Wei teleported to the second to check on Li Jun, who was preparing his armor and soldiers for this war. Why are you here? Shouldn't you be busy? Asked Li Jun. I came to check on you. Check on me? An idea suddenly popped into his mind. Do you think I wouldn't be all right with Tai Gang's position as commander? Just wanted to make sure. I'm fine, and I think he deserves it, explained Li Jun. Anyway, I'm just happy to participate in this war. His eyes flashed a pure intent of killing and slaughter. Do you plan to have your slaughter spear absorb more slaughter aura? Yes. I plan to turn it into a special source technique, so I want to train it as much as possible before I prove the Tao. That's an excellent idea, praised Wang Wei before glancing at his men. Are you participating in the Legion layer? No, Jun Menyao will be in charge of this layer. I will dominate the mortal combatant layer. With Li Jun's immortal tier strength while still being immortal, he has the right to say he will dominate that layer. In fact, Tai Gang's plan counts top heaven-chosen dominating that layer and overwhelming the martial hegemony world. Him. Does he have his own legion? 2133. He wanted to create a military spearmanship, so he asked me to train with my legion, and he's quite talented as a general. Does he have his own legion? He's planning to but hasn't gotten to it. That's fine, nodded Wang Wei. He hoped Jin Mengyao could train a peerless spear legion to increase the sect's overall military strength. What about Kai Song? She's not participating. She said she prefers participating in individual projects to mass productions. What is this? Did she suddenly develop an artistic soul or something? Artistic soul? That's an odd way of putting it, said Li Jun, but you're correct. She was inspired by some of the mortal crafts and decided to take more pride in her works. So, did she stop mass-producing puppets for us? Why haven't I been notified of this? That's because she didn't. It's not her main focus, but her work has not stopped. She left a clone to deal with it. Well, that's fine, nodded Wang Wei, who thought he had lost his Skynet manufacturing base. He decided to check on her and ensure there was no problem. So, after his chat with Li Jun, he checked on Kai Song and found that everything was fine. She was just focused on creating more powerful and unique puppets, and Wang Wei was fine with that as long as her other work did not stop. He returned to the court and oversaw the final preparations before the deployment. Star Beast World. Tong Ruobing received the information about the recent court meeting. She handed it to Mu Lei and he said, "What are you thinking? Is it really not possible for us to also begin to expand? You know that's currently impossible." Of course, Tong Ruobing knew. Their world was in a unique and awkward situation. The Star Beast world is a high-level member of the Commerce Hub because of the insane amount of resources it consumes. Simultaneously, the hub is currently the enemy or opponent of Wang Wei, which is their ally, a fact already public. In other words, the Star Beast world has become the middle link between those two fighting titans. The internal attitude of the Commerce Hub is that no member will create their own heavenly court or expand until their enemy is dealt with. An exception was made for the Star Beast world since they had already created a court before the decision was made. However, if they expand their borders, the situation will become complicated. As members of the hub, there should be repercussions for breaking the rules. And if the Commerce Hub decides to attack or sanction the Star Beast world, Wang Wei can use this excuse to start a fight with them. Suppose they ignore Mu Lei and Tong Ruobing breaking the rules. In that case, the Commerce Hub's status and influence will be diminished, considering the Endless Void will see this as an act of cowardice and fear toward the first Heavenly Emperor. Ultimately, their world has become the key factor in determining when Wang Wei and the Commerce Hub will officially break off and begin fighting. The best move is to wait patiently, said Mu Lei. He believed in Wang Wei's side more than the commerce, so the result is already doom. His only concern is to prevent his world from suffering untold casualties and loss during this confrontation. I know this, but my heart aches every time I think of the benefit we are losing, sighed Tong Ruobing. She did not expect navigating the interpolitical relationship between her current world and homeworld to be this difficult. "I'm going home," said Tong Ruobing, standing up from her cultivation cushion. "Why?" "Although I cannot participate, I can ensure the Great Talisman City acquires as many benefits as possible." "That's a good idea. I will keep watch on things here." Tong Ruobing teleported back home. Martial Hegemony World. Qianheng was overviewing the court's construction. He had already built the location in a few days, but the thing could only be called shabby. There was only a small world with a white palace at the center, in other words, nothing extravagant. In this dangerous time, he saw no need to build any lavish court as this would be a waste of resources. The only thing remaining was refining the conferred god list, the ceremony, and the test to determine whether he was worthy. All these things will take some time, but time is what this world has the least of. While Qianheng was supervising the establishment of the court's arrays, he received notification that someone wished to see him. He immediately frowned after using his divine sense to check. After a brief ponder, he summoned the visitor. An elderly man dressed in Taoist robes walked into a white room. He looked at the formation above this room before focusing on Xianxia. Your Majesty. He bowed politely. I'm not the Heavenly Emperor yet, so there is no need for the formality, said Xianxia coolly. What brings you here, Reverend Tranquility? The Peaceful Life Palace would like to participate in this war and offer our servitude. Xianxia was silent as this was not a simple offer. This world hated Taoism, including martial Taoist sects, which was common during the previous era. However, all these sects were eventually eradicated after the Rising Dragon sect led them to their freedom, leaving only one, the Peaceful Life Palace. This faction was able to survive the cleanup for a few reasons. They participated in the war against the Celestial Harmony world and contributed immensely. And as a reward for their achievements, the dragon's subduing emperor granted them amnesty, and everyone respected that. Of course, this was not enough to ensure their survival. Although people respected the dragon's subduing emperor, he had been gone for a while, so it would be understandable that someone with a grudge would have gone back on their words. Another reason why they survived for so long was a rebranding and their strength. The Peaceful Life Palace changed its original name even to the detriment of its chi luck. They wanted their faction's name to reflect their ideology. They were a peaceful group of martial artists who used Taoist ideologies to train their minds and spirits. With this foundation, the Peaceful Life Palace has become the de facto leader of all professional resources in the martial hegemony world. They dominated every field, especially pill refining. Martial artists used a great deal of resources, especially in the three realms of life, death, and nirvana, and the Peaceful Life Palace had the best pills. 2134 Another reason why they survived for so long was a rebranding and their strength. The Peaceful Life Palace changed its original name even to the detriment of its chi luck. They wanted their faction's name to reflect their ideology. They were a peaceful group of martial artists who used Taoist ideologies to train their minds and spirits. Lastly, they only trained professional Tao emperors besides their sect's founder. Of their 5 great emperors, 4 proved the Tao with a professional Tao, and they were all talented, 3 of them being pseudo-eternals and the other reaching 20% grand Tao source but failing to condense their Tao will. With this foundation, the Peaceful Life Palace has become the de facto leader of all professional resources in the martial hegemony world. They dominated every field, especially pill refining. Martial artists used a great deal of resources, especially in the 3 realms of life, death, and nirvana, and the Peaceful Life Palace had the best pills. Ultimately, although the world loathes them because of their connection with Taoism, they have also become indispensable to the martial hegemony world. Of course, some past emperors have tried to eradicate them, whether out of hatred or greed for their resources and foundation. However, no one has succeeded in breaking through their sect's array. Are you sure? Asked Xianxia after over a minute of contemplation. We are, replied Reverend Tranquility, and Xianxia sighed. People will not like this decision, but it is the correct one to make. They need support for this war, and the Peaceful Life Palace is the one that can provide the greatest. Most top factions focus too heavily on individual power and do not have the best system regarding profession Daos. Very well, nodded Xianxia. Despite his mistrust of these people, he knew it was their best choice to partake in this war. Maybe this world will be more accepting of them after defending it for a second time. Your Majesty, about the others? Don't worry, I will convince them. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1067 First Planar War, 3. Xianxia accelerated everything after the visit from Reverend Tranquility. Everything was set up 5 days later, and he did not waste time to start the ceremony. The entire world watched and waited with bated breath. Once the ceremony ended, Xianxia disappeared to another space to begin Heavenly Daos tests to see whether he was worthy of this position. To the outside world, he only disappeared for less than 10 seconds before reappearing. But Xianxia has spent quite some time in space, including testing his Tao heart, willpower, and overall battle strength. A strange look appeared on Xianxia's face after returning from the past, and that's because he knew he must pay Wang Wei, his world's invader, a patent fee for becoming a heavenly emperor. The worst part is this was non-negotiable, as true heavenly Tao would automatically deduct his merit to repay the fee. He immediately summoned everybody else to confer the god positions. Xianxia knew the world's circumstances, so he tried to be selfless to prevent infighting. If someone complains about their position, he will respond that after the war, based on the results and accomplishments of each faction, the positions will be once again divided. Now that things have been settled, let's proceed with the rest, said Xianxia. The First Order, the Peaceful Life Palace, will participate in this war, providing us professional assistance. Your Majesty, you can't. Yes, we cannot trust these damn Taoists. Don't overreact. The Peaceful Life Palace has shown us they can be trusted. What if they betray us? Can you take responsibility for this? Your weak fear tactics are useless here. We are not fighting some Taoist faction or world, so why would they betray us? There is literally nothing to gain for them. There is always something to gain for betrayal. By that logic, anyone here can betray the world for benefit or safety. You dare suggest I'm a traitor? My ancestors fought for the survival of this world. And the Peaceful Life Palace's ancestors did the same. They even went above and beyond just for the recognition. Enough, declared Xianxia, and after a few seconds, everyone stopped talking. We are facing a catastrophe. In the best-case scenario, our world will suffer another era of oppression. As for the worst case, we might be wiped out and all our culture, lineage, and inheritance removed from the annals of history. Xianxia let the silence marinate for a few seconds. We need all the help we can gather. No one spoke for a while before the Rising Dragon sect master spoke. Our founder believed in the integrity of the Peaceful Life Palace, so we will vouch for them. The origin of this chapter's debut can be traced to N0, Vel, B, J, N. We also support their participation. Everyone gazed at the celestial demon cult and wondered when these crazy demons cared so much about the world. However, with these two heavyweights vouching for them, the others accepted the proposal. Reverend Tranquility finally spoke and thanked everyone, promising to do their best for this war effort. That's decided, stated Xianxia. For our second order of business, we need to discuss military tactics. I suggest we remove the death-forbidden treaty. Your Majesty? Seriously? First the Taoist bastards and now this? Please leave our ancestors to rest. Yes, leave them alone. Some of you truly either cannot understand the threat we are facing, or you refuse to do so. This method is the only way we have a remote chance in this war. But what about filial piety and respecting the elders and ancestors? We might be martial artists, but we're not brutes. It's either that or you guys go forward, drastically increasing our death rate. A silence ensued, followed by more discussions before everyone nodded in using this tactic. The meeting lasted a few hours as many more preparations for this war were coming. No one knew when the enemy was coming, but they understood it would not be much. They needed to organize their armies and pool their resources, followed by some training for better cooperation. Lastly, the people with god positions needed to use their position's advantage to increase their strength as soon as possible. The majority have prepared to use forbidden methods to increase their strength at great costs. After the meeting, Xianxia thought he had a moment of respite. The next thing he needed to do was to see whether he could create a few more immortals to participate in this war. Better yet, he wished he had enough time and resources to train an eternal class insurgent. However, he soon sensed something and looked in the eastern direction. Killing intent flashed in his eyes. Those damn bastards, he groaned before disappearing from the golden throne. 7 days passed, and when the time arrived, everyone who would be participating in the war was waiting at the court. Wang Wei stood before more than hundreds of millions of cultivators. With me here, we will be victorious in this war no matter what. His voice was soft, but everyone present could hear it loud and clear, as if he was muttering directly into their ears. What you have to worry about is how fast we can win, how many of our people we can save before the war ends, how many enemies we can kill, and how to celebrate once everything is over. A fervor rushed through every soldier's presence as the military aura around them drastically increased and solidified. Even the more cool-headed and experienced immortals felt the passion of these simple but direct words. The idea that they have such a monster as their backer filled them with untold confidence. "Now go," said Wang Wei as he waved his hand to create a portal. "Win this war and announce our glorious return to the endless void. Glory to your majesty and honor to the motherland. Glory to your majesty and honor to the motherland. Glory to your majesty and honor to the motherland." All the troops began to chant in unison as they marched into the portal, directly teleporting outside the martial hegemony world. As soon as the troops arrived at their destination, they deployed all the formations while waiting. "Do you think they want fight us in the void?" asked Huafenghuang. "Logically speaking, they should understand this formation won't hold two Eternals, so the best move is to fight us outside," replied Ao Shin. "However, they may have an unknown tactic that requires them to do so." She nodded. The commander seemed confident they would fight us outside. Her gaze looked at the calm and composed Tai Gang. Maybe he knows something we don't, or he's just that confident. The wait was more than 30 minutes by standard time. The magic circles surrounding the martial hegemony world shone with golden lights before all their legions manifested. "What is this stink?" "I know, fear and worry." Huafenghuang's voice echoed in the void, and the opposing troops could hear it clearly. Tai Gang smiled, secretly praising her. Morale is a crucial factor in any battle, and her small actions gave them another boost on top of the one from the Heavenly Emperor. "We are martial artists," said Xianxia, who finally appeared. "We pursue the transcendence of our body and mind. So what if we're afraid? That's just another emotion to conquer." Ao Shin and Huafenghuang sneered but did not say anything. "What is the plan?" she asked through divine sense. "Do you want to slaughter their leader immediately?" "Haven't you realized for some people that this war is a game?" replied Ao Shin with a sneer. "Since they are not in a hurry, we don't need to be too eager." "Hee," chuckled Huafenghuang. Of course, she noticed, but her primary objective was to use this war to cultivate her slaughter Dao. The white tiger blood in her veins is screaming in anticipation. Meanwhile, Tai Gang looked appreciative. He did not expect the enemy's heavenly emperor to be this competent. "Maybe this war will not be as easy as I anticipated," thought Tai Gang. He did not care if this world struggled more than anticipated, he wished for it. He is treating this life as a form of experiencing gathering for the next, so the more turbulence he encounters, the better he will be for his next life. "According to the order of my emperor, I will give your world one last chance," yelled Tai Gang. "Stop this war, and the previous offer will still stand. By the honor of His Majesty, the sovereignty of your court will be guaranteed." "And my answer is still the same," replied Xianxia. "We do not accept any foreign interference in our world, in any shape or form, and that's final. You know you cannot win this war, so why be persistent?" Countered Tai Gang. "Billions of lives will die because of your stupid decision. Their death will be in your hands. We will rather die standing than accept subjugation. And no, their deaths will not be on us but yours. You're the one who chose this aggressive path." "Since that's your choice, fine," said Tai Gang. "See this, men? We have offered mercy to our opponent, but they have refused our goodwill. Now, let's show them what power is. Glory to your majesty and honor to the motherland." The chants of the myriad emperor world's legions echoed in the void, even making it tremble slightly. Then they marched forward. "Release them," yelled Xianxia. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1068 First Planar War 4. A formation appeared before these martial artists, and many people rushed out. They had almost no rules and regulations, and their powers varied from mortals, yes, mortals with no cultivation, to Dao ancestors and insurgents level characters. Tai Gang's eyes shrunk as he saw the people approaching. Are those undead? The creatures attacking them were indeed not living, as the stench of death oozed out of their bodies. Additionally, many of them were skeletons or were missing parts. "So, that's their tactic," he muttered, understanding the situation. The cultivation system of this world had control of life and death energy, meaning that even the most ordinary martial artist could reanimate corpses after entering the death realm. They used this fact to their advantage, controlling the dead of their worlds as cannon fodders for this war. Tai Gang acted swiftly and ordered the people not to activate the formation that separated people into layers. "Release the puppet core," he ordered. A formation appeared on the myriad Emperor world's side, and countless puppets rushed out. Most were humanoid shapes with different weapons, mostly cold weapons, but many with projectile weapons like arrows and cannons, while other puppets resembled animals and demon races. Some pinnacle puppets were created based on innate demons and primordial gods. Tai Gang calmly observed as these two legions crashed, and chaos ensued. Puppets and undead had no emotions like fear or hesitation, so they tore each other apart. Even the high-tier puppets with souls were stripped of their sense of self to turn them into pure killing machines. He watched as a group of puppets bite through the flesh of countless undead. Still, despite their limbs being separated from their bodies, they clawed at their opponent for a final kill before their misery of an existence ended. Typically, high-level puppets can be programmed to find weaknesses in their opponent, but the undead did not have weaknesses. So, the result will be the same whether they burn, freeze, electrocute, crush, cut, pierce, or explode their opponents. Additionally, since the undead move purely due to death chi, soul/spirit attacks did not affect them. The undead did their part in this war. Surprisingly, they had an overwhelming advantage due to the sheer number of mortals. Individuals, these mortals, were useless in such high-scale battles. However, the martial artists from the martial hegemony world proved adept at this tactic. Trillions of mortals will explode in a frenzy of death energy that is detrimental to even Tier 5 cultivators. And this was not the end. Trillions of mortals will fuse into an abomination of death and resentment. The creatures they created were only Tier 5, but their combat ability was on par with the weakest Tier 7 because of their unique ability to contaminate the mind with their resentment. With this dirty, almost cruel tactic, the undead slowly overwhelmed the puppets. So, these machines changed tactics and began exploding before their death. They can take out large groups of enemies with this suicidal approach, thus slowing the undead's advance. This battle was fierce and terrifying despite the lack of any blood. Myriad Emperor world sighed. "At this rate, we're going to lose," commented one of the Legion commanders. "That's obvious. Our puppet core still requires resources to build, but these people have too many mortal undead on their sides. The amount of mortals dying in one cultivation in general is simply outrageous, let alone throughout the history of the world. So, thinking about how many mortals these people have at their disposition made everyone tremble. So, what's next?" asked someone. "Will our commander order us to intervene?" "Let's see." Martial hegemony world sighed. Xianxia, who stood in the void accompanied by 3 individuals, had a deep frown as he watched the outcome of this confrontation. To say he was not pleased is an understatement. This Death Legion aimed to weed out most of the enemy's population, but he did not expect them to respond with a similar tactic. The Death Legion was instrumental in winning the war against the Taoists, who forbade it, knowing its potential. But now, its effectiveness has been drastically reduced. "What should we do now?" asked Lightning Fist, and he did not receive an immediate response. "Purple Dragon, do you have any suggestions?" asked Xianxia, looking at the eternal class powerhouse from the Rising Dragon sect. "There is no way that they have more puppets than we have of the dead. So, we only need to pile corpses onto them." "That's what I was thinking too," nodded Xianxia before looking at the battlefield. His eyes focused on 2 people, Ao Shen and Hua Fenghuang. "Now, our real worry is those 2. "Don't worry. Our plan will surely work," reassured Purple Dragon. Tai Gang watched this battlefield that could only be described as a meat grinder. He knew the situation was not on his side, but he was not worried, he only needed to wait. He soon noticed something that needed his attention. The amount of puppet Immortal tier powerhouses was no longer enough to hold the enemy. Tai Gang secretly groaned. These Immortal tier puppets were pricey, and it pained him to lose even one of them, despite most not belonging to the Dao opening sect. Without hesitation, he ordered more powerhouses to enter the battlefield. There is no need to go all out, just hold the enemy and buy us some time, he ordered, and the people chosen immediately executed his plan. The void began to shake as more top-tier powerhouses entered the battlefield, and Tai Gang observed and waited. Begin the extraction, ordered Tai Gang, and one particular legion immediately acted. An array manifested above their head in the shape of a magic circle with very intricate designs. The circle released a terrifying devouring power, but oddly, it did not affect any living creature. All the puppet parts still salvaging flew toward the array, recycling the parts for later use. Tai Gang's body paused as he received orders from War Room. Take the undead parts too, he ordered to the cleanup legion, and they followed instructions. They recycled the enemy's undead body parts. Can they do that? Asked Lighting Fist. The real question is how to stop them, added Saber Snake. I'll talk to Reverend Tranquility. Xianxia did not hesitate to contact the latter, telling him of the situation. So, what do you think? If you give me time, it's not impossible to stop them. The real question is, why should we? The inaugural upload of this chapter took place via /n/ov/l/b/in. What do you mean? From what I observe in this brief confrontation, the enemy's professional Dao is highly developed, and we would lose if we try to confront them. Instead of wasting time and resources in stopping them, it might be best to focus on something else. We can't just let them take the bodies of our dead. Heaven knows what they're going to do with it. Ultimately, the choice is yours, said Reverend Tranquility in a calm and soothing voice. However, my opinion is we should focus our effort and resources on something else. Our manpower in the professional field is severely lacking, and it might be best to focus our effort on other things. Xianxia sighed. You're right. In times like this, he could not lament how weak their world is compared to their glorious past before those damn Taoists. Since he had decided he would no longer hesitate, Xianxia chose to abandon the bodies of these dearly departed. Tai Gang continued to observe, and soon afterward, he heard the sweet sound he was waiting for from the dream world. Commander, we're finished. Excellent. Are you going to send someone to set it up? No need. We will send you an array disk and you only need to activate it. Make sure not to destroy the disk and there will be no issue. Very well. A small void tear materialized before Tai Gang, alerting everyone. He calmly took out the disk and injected his power into it. Then, things proceeded so fast that only a few could understand what was happening and barely reacted. A small array manifested from the disk before also releasing a terrifying devouring power, but its target was only one thing: death chi. In less than a second, trillions of undead stopped moving as the death chi in their bodies dissipated. The other horrifying aspect of this formation was it did not discriminate against the tier of undead it targeted. So, whether it was mortal or immortal undead, they all stopped functioning under its power. Tai Gang sneered after seeing this outcome. These undead were the lowest level, with no soul or consciousness, just instinct. As such, they could not resist the death chi being forcefully sucked out of them. Damn it, roared Xianxia. He just watched how they so easily lost their biggest trump card. You think this is the end? Sneered Tai Gang. Began purification. Amethaptha. These words echoed in the minds of everyone present. Then, a colossal golden lotus appeared in the middle of the battlefield, releasing a golden light that swiftly purified the resentments from the mortals and other undead. The lotus flew to the myriad emperor world side and released a golden light on all the legions, granting them a blessing. Listen, men, said Tai Gang. Their people have resented and abandoned them while blessing us. This is another sign that our victory is guaranteed and honorable. Now, let's avenge these poor and innocent souls who only wanted to rest peacefully. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1069 First Planar War V. The faces of the martial artists contorted as this was an irrefutable truth. What they had done was the ultimate form of disrespect to their people, elders, ancestors, and worlds. Men, desperate time calls for desperate measures, said Xianxia, his voice echoing in everybody's mind. What we have done is a shame that we must bear for the rest of our lives, but remember, we did it out of necessity for survival and because we are weak. We may have wronged the dead, but the living are counting on us. So raise your head and face the enemy. Use this shame and anger as fuel to protect the people not burdened by our choices. For the people, for the world, for our shame. For the people, for the world, for our shame. For the people, for the world, for our shame. They rushed to meet head-on with the Origin cultivators, and the formation was instantly activated, isolating everyone into layers. The martial artists were momentarily disoriented until they figured things out. Qianheng quickly ordered them to change tactics, sending people or legions to different layers. Tai Gang calmly watched the enemy's response before contacting some people. Top 15 Heaven Chosens, do not reveal your full strength yet, especially you, Li Jun. Wait for the right time to sweep the mortal combatant layer. As you wish, replied Li Jun, and Tai Gang flew to the first layer, which was the most complicated. Although this was the Legion layer, the commanders of these legions were of different tiers and included many immortals. He soon noticed something and frowned. This might be a problem. The legions from the Myriad Emperor world were objectively better than those from the Martial Hegemony world. They had better weapons and armor and more variety, talisman weapons. They were trained to be a real army or unit, while it was obvious that many of these martial artists' legions were put together very recently. Additionally, martial artists, at least these ones, are more individualistic, making them not prone to working in groups as they favor personal power more. Lastly, the martial artists were surprised to discover they lost the advantage of a powerful body with high defense and regenerative capabilities. This fact was one of the primary contributing factors in their victory against the Taoists, who were more known for their spiritual practice than their bodies. However, the Origin cultivators tempered their bodies to a high degree, especially with the new Origin system that places heavy emphasis on this. And even if they did not use the new system to its full potential, bathing in constant innate qi has nourished and strengthened them. Their only advantage in this scrimmage was their regenerative ability. With immense life energy, no Origin cultivator would be on par with them on healing except for the geniuses. More importantly, they have linked their life energy to help each other heal from injuries. In other words, all their legions are versions of Tai Gang's undead legion created from his innate ability. A lot of them are not in sync, thus affecting the life energy sharing process, thought Tai Gang. But the perfectly in sync ones are even better than my undead legion. The worst part is they do not have one person as the main link. Their abilities come from their cultivation system. If something happens to Tai Gang, his undead legion will drastically weaken. However, the martial artist legions do not have such a weakness. We can't use the previous tactic since consciousnesses control the life energy, so the formation is useless. Tai Gang looked to his left, observing Li Jun's Slaughter Legion led by Jun Menyao had no issue with their enemies as they could kill the life energy or replace it death qi to throw them out of balance. However, this tactic only worked the first time since the Martial Hegemony world's cultivators are masters of control of life and death qi. The situation was similar in one of the ancient clan's legions, most likely trained by the Sacred Beast Empress. Tai Gang ignored the explosions around him, the shouts, the blood, gore, and wailing souls. His mind was only analyzing the battlefield and coming up with the best countermeasure. His eyes moved to Great Talisman City's legions, which he found unique. A few talented talisman makers served as the core of the legion. Everyone else allows them to borrow their collective strength through formation, and they can make any talisman they wish to fight or support. They used a life qi suppressing talisman created for this battle, thus suppressing the martial artist's ability and rendering them easier to kill. Talisman Legion, move to the center and bless all legions with your talisman, ordered Tai Gang, who also called 2 Dao ancestors to fuse with the Talisman Legion's formation and give them a greater strength boost. With this subtle change, all other legions were now provided with life qi suppressing talisman, making their battles easier. The casualties on the opposing side dramatically increased as their only advantage was weakened or useless. Tai Gang received a few praises from the war room, but his focus remained on the war. Argorg. A visceral roar as if from a creature who had suffered until pain in the depths of hell and had escaped, now consumed by an incomprehensible anger. Everyone's eyes were on this martial artist whose white could only be distinguished by the few spots on his red sleeve. His body turned golden as he burned his golden body for extra strength. Then, with madness in his eyes, he rushed toward Tai Gang. He was unstoppable, destroying anyone on his way and breaking countless formations. An immortal venerable tried to stop him, but the martial artist ignored him, advancing forward toward one man only Tai Gang. Interesting, thought Tai Gang. Anger, hatred, and desperation sublimated his spirit, allowing him to achieve a temporary will manifestation. His Majesty was correct when he said this cultivation system made it easier to manifest willpower. Tai Gang sent an order, and a Tao ancestor acted. A colossal palm descended on this little quasi-emperor, annihilating his body and soul. However, Tai Gang's happiness did not even have an opportunity to manifest as he detected a black shadow continuing toward him. Has killing me turned into your obsession? He analyzed. He ordered everyone to let him pass, and he blew to it once the thing reached less than 2 meters away. His mouth generated a terrifying vibration backed by the strings of fate. The obsession resisted for less than a second before dissipating. How could this be? Said a hoarse voice. It's because you're weak, so even the power of obsession cannot change your fate, said Tai Gang indifferently. The martial artist looked at him with red eyes. He wanted to look at the people responsible for taking everything from him. Before the last of him disappeared, his life flashed before his eyes. His name was Xiao Ning, but the people in the martial world knew him as the White Cloth Flute Azura. In his early years, he had no interest in martial arts despite his master's best efforts. His only love was music, the flute, to be specific. Then, on that fateful night, he returned home to see his master slain. He remembered the pain and guilt he felt. On that day, he changed as he buried his master. He focused on martial arts, combined it with his flute, and eventually acquired the heaven martial art called Sound of Murder. After his martial art was accomplished, Xiao Ning went on a rampage in the world, trying to avenge his master. The countless bodies he left in his wake garnered him the nickname White Cloth Flute Azura. Xiao Ning thought his life would be filled with blood, vengeance, and darkness until he found the last man on his revenge list. He remembered that day on the mountain vividly. His long hair flowed with the wind, the beautiful mountain in the background, and the zither sound, indicating he had accepted his fate. Out of instinct, Xiao Ning took his flute to play an accompanying piece, and when he woke up, they'd been playing together for 3 days. More importantly, all his anger and hatred had dissipated. Without hesitation, Xiao Ning made a bold decision to forgive, and he never regretted it. That day, he found a companion. They secluded themselves from the world, focusing on their music. They did not care about the rocky martial path or the ruthless emperor path. They had each other and music, which was more than enough. Things were well for a long time until this war. Xiao Ning wanted to stay out of it, at least in the early stages. But his companion felt compelled to participate. So he followed him. Alas, as soon as the fight started, he had to watch the person he loved dearly eradicated from him. The anger and grief overwhelmed his mind, so he decided to do something for his homeworld in memory of his companion's patriotism. Sadly, his effort was futile. Lai Chang, don't worry, I will come see you now. See? I didn't make you wait long, so you can't complain. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1070 Death Ring. Tai Gang frowned as he noticed a slight change in the battlefield. Numerous golden lights emanated in scattered places throughout the void. The martial artists had become ruthless and burned their golden bodies to launch suicidal attacks at their enemies. In other words, they were fighting desperately. So, he ordered his men to fight more carefully and be on the lookout for these desperate tactics. On the other side of the battlefield, Qianheng watched everything while clenching his fist. They were losing this fight, which could be said to be a one-sided massacre. These origin cultivators were as versatile in their methods and tactics as the Taoists. Still, on top of everything else, they also had a powerful body with great defense, stamina, and regeneration. Is the fate of our world be subjugated? Thought Xianxia, clenching his fist even tighter to the point of causing small explosions. Sorry, he said to the other three, and they nodded to show they understood. What should we do? Asked Lighting Fist. We can only continue with the original plan, replied Xianxia, sighing deeply. He suddenly paused as he received a communication from the Celestian demon cult. If you guys had something like that, why wait so long to reveal it? He asked with an ugly expression. We're revealing it at the correct time. Your Majesty, you should be happy we're willing to show you our deep background. Xianxia exhaled deeply. Fine. Send it out. What are these demons playing at? Asked Lighting Fist. My concern is why now? Asked Purple Dragon. Isn't it obvious? Sneered Snake Saber. They need us to buy enough time to gather enough merit for their cult leader. You really shouldn't have revived him, complained Lightning Fist. Once he proves the Tao, he will definitely compete against you for the Heavenly Emperor position. You saw how much resources and manpower they provided for this war, explained Xianxia. Plus, I never care about this damn position. You may not care, but we do. I would rather we have no leader than those demonic bastards ruling over us, sneered Lightning Fist. The void before them trembled before something materialized, a white ring obviously made out of bones. The underworld martial emperor's proving Tao artifact, muttered Saber Snake. It's as beautiful and powerful as I envisioned. The underworld martial emperor was a legend in the martial hegemony world because of his strength and the devastation he caused the world. After the Null Era, the world entered the martial origin era, where their cultivation system was created and perfected. Then, near the end of the era, came the madman, the underworld martial emperor. He is the first person to show how terrifying it is to use death chi to create legions of undead. With his death Tao, the madman went on a rampaging path to conquer the world and turn it into a world of the dead with him at the top while farming the world for heaven's will. The terrifying thing was he almost succeeded. The martial origin era was a prosperous time with numerous immortal sovereigns, insurgents, and immortal tier powerhouses. But they were no match for the underworld martial emperor due to his personal strength and large army. This confrontation resulted in these powerhouses' deaths and turning into the enemy's undead soldiers. Luckily for this world, a betrayal from the underworld martial emperor's closest friend and ally allowed them to seal and exile him. After his departure, the tactic of using the dead as cannon fodder was popularized until a great emperor facilitated the death forbidden treaty. Without wasting time, Xianxia put the ring on and activated one of its abilities. Immortal Curse. All the mortal martial artists in this war soon discovered a black mark on their forehead, followed by a message of what was happening. They were not immortal. Their enemies could not kill them no matter what. So, they went mad, attacking their opponent with unrestrained hatred and anger. This was an opportunity to avenge their loved ones, brothers, friends, and fallen comrades. This is not good, thought Tai Gang, noticing the situation. This emperor artifact seemed to have been nourished by death energy for billions of generations. His eyes brightened as he thought his boss should be interested. However, this was for later, as he still needed to deal with the situation. Although this technique only applied to the mortal cultivators, it was enough to reverse the war. Talisman Legion. Provide everyone with sealing talismans. Although we can't kill them now, we can seal them to kill later, ordered Tai Gang before focusing on Wu Ming's Totem Legion. You're up. Use the Legion with the sealing array to deal with the situation. Wu Ming immediately acted, summoning his legions with sealing-based totem on their bodies to move forward. Wait, said Tai Gang, who suddenly received orders from the war room. Forget it. We will take a defensive position. Meanwhile, let's begin the immortal tier battles. Why the sudden change? Asked Wu Ming, but Tai Gang had an inkling. This decision was made either as a precautionary measure to save as much love or the war was proceeding too smoothly, and there was a need to slow down things and gather more data using different tactics. Under his order, all legions formed defensive stands and created interconnected energy shields to protect themselves from these mad martial artists. They were ordered not to worry about energy reserves as the alchemists would provide them with as many pills as necessary for a prolonged battle. Li Jun, protect the other Heaven Chosens, ordered Tai Gang. You want me to babysit? I refuse. Why? If these people are not adept at dealing with an immortal opponent, they should not call themselves Heaven Chosen. Fair point. Do you guys hear this? Said Tai Gang, and these people became riled up, calling out Tai Gang for even suggesting such a thing. The only calm response was the number 2 position, Dijiai. A smile crept on the corner of Tai Gang's mouth. Now, it's time for me to move. Without hesitation, he released his aura to call for a challenge, a towering martial artist who was 3.5 meters tall and holding 2 large hammers. The man released a projection of his inner world to show his strength as a first-class Dao ancestor insurgent. Let's use this fight to dampen their high morale, thought Tai Gang as he rushed toward his opponent. Strings of fate, Tai Gang moved his fingers as if he were a puppeteer controlling strings. Then, before the small giant man could respond, invisible strings around him became visible, cutting off his body, soul, and even his inner world. The martial artist looked at Tai Gang in shock, not thinking he would die so easily. Then, his body split into hundreds of pieces before the void energy in the surroundings finished it off. What is this? Asked Tai Gang, who discovered a glowing yellow mud from this guy's inner world. Immortal earth essence? So, that's how he became first class. He smiled as this was a great find. He could leave it to cultivate a first-class Dao ancestor insurgent for his next life or trade it to the sect for something of equal value. Who else? Asked Tai Gang, looking at the crowd. I will be your opponent, said another first-class insurgent, but he was skinny with a third eye on his forehead. Tai Gang could not tell whether he was a subhuman race or this was a technique. This was unimportant as this man was just another dead opponent. He used the same technique without hesitation, but this man could see his fate strings and evaded. Good job, thought Tai Gang. But what about the vibrations that come with the strings? But to his surprise, his opponent could detect or even see his hidden attack and evade. Furthermore, this martial artist was extremely fast. Kinetic vibration, Tai Gang siphoned vibration from everything that moved, and in this battlefield where gods, demons, and monsters were trying to kill each other, he had too many sources of vibrations. Even the rapid movement of his opponent was a source of power for him. Don't you get it? Sneered the three-eyed martial artist. Anything I can see cannot hurt me. In his eyes, everything around him had turned into vibrations and fluctuations, but it did not matter. He navigated through like he was walking in his house. It did not matter whether the vibrations originated from subatomic particles or some unknown ethereal or non-physical concept. He would evade it as long as he could see it. This is annoying, thought Tai Gang. This technique reminded him of the Battle Maniac Source technique. He still needs to move so I could land a hit as long as I'm faster than him. However, this plan was flawed because he would need to be significantly faster than his opponent, which he was not. In that case, the only solution is to take away his sight, thought Tai Gang, who immediately formed a tactic to end this fight as soon as possible. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1071 Fourth Layer Battle. Myriad Emperor World, Heavenly Court, War Room. Wang Wei sat on a new throne, looking at the projection of the war from a formation. He was finally interested when he saw the white ring bursting with the power of death. He ordered the gathering of the bodies of these martial artists as materials for puppets, and the death chi was to feed the Genesis fruit. The death chi was too low in quality despite the high intensity. However, it was different for the Emperor artifact. It should benefit his body tempering and even aid his death Dao comprehension. Interesting. This war might be more beneficial than I anticipated. Maybe I can lure out some eats and snakes. Wang Wei looked in the distance, smiled before continuing to pay attention. Tai Gang held a head in his hand with 3 holes where the eye sockets should be. His tactic for this match was simple but direct. He bombarded his opponent with attacks to pressure him, forcing him to enter a state of extreme focus. The next step was for this martial artist's extreme state to be focused on him until he made a mistake in his visual ability by being too focused on something else. Tai Gang then took the opportunity or flaw in the latter's visual acumen to rip the third eye from him. Without it, the martial artist's visual prowess drastically decreased so he could take the other 2 eyes before killing him. You were a worthy opponent, and I think I will remember you, thought Tai Gang, who kept the 3 eyes in case they were valuable. He looked around for his next victim before noticing a change in the 4th layer. Have the Eternals begun to clash? It seems things are heating up, thought Tai Gang before focusing on his lair. He soon frowned as he detected a powerful enemy approaching. He was immediately on guard as the approaching person raised his alarm bells. A first-class insurgent that is very close to Eternal class? Now we're talking, thought Tai Gang, who felt the joy of when he was the Iron Fist ruler, challenging cultivators all over the world to break his limits and become a supernatural realm cultivator. Things are not going well. We are losing too many immortal powerhouses, groaned Lightning Fist. Have you noticed? These origin cultivators have terrifying battle experiences, and it's all of them. They are martial artists, and their cultivation system is more battle-oriented, and yet, they were being outclassed by their opponents in this field. How they fight reminds me of the demon cults, nodded Purple Dragon. The celestial demon cult has a cruel method of training Heaven Chosen. From age 10, their members are gathered in groups of hundreds, sometimes thousands. By the age of 15, only one group member will remain. Then, that member will acquire the title of Sacred Son and begin cultivating with the other survivors for the position of young cult leader. The final winner in that competition will be designated as the cult's next leader and Heaven Chosen to be fully cultivated for this generation's Heaven will. Is their cultivation system so perfect? Asked Lightning Fist. It's indeed a good system, but it should not be the cause of their battle experience, replied Xianxia. From how they fight, these people have obviously experienced thousands of battles against worthy foes. If I had to guess, it might have something to do with the dream world Su Shi mentioned. Using the power of dream to train? Said Saber Snake. It's a perfect method if they can recreate all the rules of the real world. Everyone sighed as they understood what kind of opponent they were facing. What? Having regrets now? Asked Xianxia. It's not too late to surrender and let them spread their dream world. By then we will also have access to it. Don't insult us, Your Majesty, said Lightning Fist. Nothing is worse for a martial artist than to abandon their convictions. The others did not say anything, but they felt the same. A martial artist must have a firm will and conviction, or they will never survive the death realm when facing death, let alone the even scarier Nirvana realm. I'm glad you feel this way, nodded Xianxia. Purple Dragon, you're up. Are you sure you don't want help? Let me gauge his ability first. If something goes wrong, you can jump in to help. Purple Dragon fixed his purple robe embroidered with dragons on the sleeves, followed by his dark long hair. It was a habit he developed long ago when one of his junior sisters told him he looked terrible after winning a fight to impress her. So, from that on, he ensured he looked perfect before every battle. Very well. Purple Dragon flew forward, and once he reached the formation he was teleported to a special area in the void. Although he can see what's going on in this fight, he knows he cannot intervene, and all his actions will also not affect others. Ao Shin, come and die, he roared. Ao Shin, dressed in all black, appeared before him. That stench and disgusting aura, you're from the Rising Dragon sect. Yes, and like our founder, I've come to subdue a dragon. A killing intent flashed in Ao Shin's eyes. However, he did not lash out. Instead, he smirked, I participate in this war, especially to slaughter you guys. Any other factions might survive this war but yours, that I promise. Purple Dragon shook his head. Although dragons are innate creatures at your core, you're like every demonic creature, vile, cruel, and lascivious. Ao Shin just smiled. He was only talking nonsense to this man because he wanted to analyze the origin of his strength. His body released an aura that he found extremely repulsive. Additionally, his eternal class strength is not from Immortal Chi, Inner World, or God King. It's from his fleshly body. Aoshin knew more than anyone how difficult it is to train the body to par with an eternal, but this weak sect with a weak foundation actually cultivated one. It seems he absorbed another body that was this powerful and perfectly inherited its strength. The only person who fits this description is their sect's founder. Did he leave his fleshly body before ascending? Now that he had figured things out, Aoshin had different ideas. Suppose he could add this person's body to the refining process of his Proving Dao artifact. In that case, he will have the dragon subduing characteristic, the antithesis of his existence and nature. He won't have to worry about techniques that directly target his kind in the future. Who would have thought you were a gift instead of a pest I needed to crush? Purple Dragon's body shivered after hearing these words. However, Aoshin did not care about his reaction as he activated his awakening, downing the dragon darkness armor. He instantly appeared before his opponent and punched him in the face. Boom! Purple Dragon took a dozen steps into the void with his arm crossed but successfully blocked the attack. So repulsive, sneered Aoshin, who felt a power emanating from his opponent's body with a natural ability to restrict him. This thing rejected his every essence and wanted to subdue it. If that bastard dragon subduing lived in this era, I would have hunted him down to the end of the Tao, sneered Aoshin before increasing his strength. He appeared next to Purple Dragon and kicked him in his ribs. However, he frowned as he detected something. Willpower manifestation, thought Aoshin, feeling the effect of this attack. He was unsurprised since he had spent years cultivating and understanding that world's cultivation system and knew it was very beneficial to manifesting willpower. You're weaker than I anticipated, taunted Purple Dragon. Although his ribs hurt, they were barely bruised and healed instantly. However, Aoshin pointed one of his sharp claws, and a small concentrated black orb manifested before turning into a potent beam full of the power of darkness. Purple Dragon's face changed as he released his dragon subduing technique. A powerful repelling force emanated from his palm to confront the darkness beam. This attempt took him a few seconds, but he was soon revealed. Impossible, yelled Purple Dragon before being swallowed. He survived the attack, but his body was full of bruises. Why are you surprised? Asked Aoshin. Even if your power is my antithesis, it is still based on who's wielding it. It's apparent that you only recently acquired it and cannot even properly wield it. Stop talking nonsense, groaned Purple Dragon. You're right. This is not the time for talking, it's time for killing. Aoshin disappeared and flew out from Purple Dragon's shadow, which should not be possible since there is no light in the void for a shadow. He plunged his arm into his enemy's back, and Purple Dragon's fighting instinct kicked in. He moved his body, allowing the claws to reach his lungs instead of his heart. He released all his dragon-subduing power to push Aoshin away and buy him some time. He's only playing with me, he thought. In that case, there is no need to gauge his strength. Let's commence with the plan directly. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1072 Buying Time. Purple Dragon's aura immediately changed, becoming more mysterious and eerie. He then started to say strange words, and a macabre phantom manifested behind. It had 6 arms, 3 heads, no legs, a red face that resembled a mask grimacing, and a black cloth that seemed to be both clothes and a part of his body. The strange creature looked at Aoshin, and one of its arms pointed at him and clenched his fist. A peculiar energy appeared on the dragon's body, making him stop his attack. So, that's how it is. You bastards took my bloodline when you hunted me down and now want to use it to curse and weaken me, he said with a sneer. It's not working? Thought Purple Dragon before saying more incantations. The curse creature behind moved all 6 arms to increase the curse. The result was just a sneer from Aoshin and a look of pity. Then, the dragon rushed before him and plunged his hand into Purple Dragon's chest, ripping his heart out. Why, is it not working? Asked Purple Dragon as blood dripped from his mouth, nose, and other orifices. I have a different bloodline now, replied Aoshin. And even if I didn't, do you think it's a simple matter to curse an eternal? Aoshin exploded his head with one punch, But he knew the opponent was not dead since he was a body refiner. As expected, Purple Dragon exploded what remained of his body before regenerating in the distance. His face was pale as Ao Shin's Dao will and will manifestation overwhelmed him with those 2 punches. Without any choices remaining, he asked for help, so Lightning Fist and Snake Saber appeared in the 4th layer to help. "I thought you said your plan would work?" asked Lightning Fist through divine sense, obviously frustrated. "This is not the time to fight. Now, we need to readjust ourselves to deal with the enemy." Although Snake Saber meditated, he was also unhappy with the plan's failure. "No, it can still work if you guys buy me some time." "What else can you do?" "The technique I'm using is one of my ancestors' greatest trophies when the Commerce Hub intervened on behalf of the Celestial Harmony world," explained Purple Dragon. "Get to the point," said Lightning Fist. "The technique is from one of the 3 Curse Kings." "Are you serious?" asked Lightning Fist. "Their world has heard of the infamous curse techniques from the Curse Haven world. Now that you mention it, this phantom resembled how our records described the malevolent Curse King," added Snake Saber. "It's him," nodded Purple Dragon. "So buy me enough time, and I can still curse him." "Alright, we'll see what we can do." Their conversation could no longer be described as fast. Ao Shin looked at the new presence and smiled. "The Heavenly Emperor says he will pay a good price for the bodies of any immortal sovereigns. It seems my luck has been on the rise recently." He focused on Purple Dragon, who sat cross-legged in the void behind those 2. Ao Shen's brow furrowed as he noticed that the eyes in one of the phantom's 3 heads were turning red. Additionally, his 6th sense was warning him of upcoming danger. "Let's end this quickly," he thought, immediately turning into a colossal black dragon. His dragon roar shook the void, and all the other layers had to momentarily stop and glance at him. Calamity of darkness. As Ao Shin moved forward, everything in a million light years in his surroundings turned into absolute darkness, and this was not a simple darkness where light was absent, and the senses were affected. No, this was the darkness that followed after the destruction of the world. "Damn it," roared Lightning Fist, who knew the enemy was no longer playing around. She immediately used her most potent offensive attack, Divine Dragon Lightning Fist. While enjoying her god position, she understood a little bit of the essence of divinity and created this technique. With this one punch, she manifested an enormous dragon composed of golden lightning. The dragon roared similarly to Ao Shin before directly confronting the darkness. Alas, this was a futile endeavor. The darkness swallowed it, and nothing else happened. There were no sounds, vibrations, or any signs of confrontation. The lightning dragon just disappeared, assimilated into the darkness. How could this be? Thought Lightning Fist as the darkness rapidly approached her, and she had no chance of surviving or even running away. Swish! An axe flew from the distance, containing an aura that indicated it would tear the darkness apart. It flew towards Lightning Fist, most likely to save her. However, before traveling far, a phoenix rushed out of nowhere and burned the axe. "So, this is the end," thought Lightning Fist before a figure suddenly appeared before her. "You! We don't have much time. Take Purple Dragon and run away." "Why are you doing this?" Snake Saber smiled. "People always assume I'm up to no good because of my face. Maybe they will now truly know what kind of person I am. Because of such a stupid reason? That's enough for me." He turned to face the darkness and immediately sacrificed his immortal mansion for a drastic increase in power. Saber Snake then cast the most potent sealing technique he knew to stall this ever-encompassing darkness. Lightning Fist bit her lips and turned into a streak of lightning to rush to Purple Dragon. "We must leave." "No, I only need a little more time." One face had both eyes already red, and the second face was still in progress. "Can't you cast the curse back home?" "Well, yes, but with the distance, my low proficiency, and the dragon already prepared, it will take much more time and resources." "Enough for me. No one is leaving here alive." Purple Dragon and Lightning Fist's faces changed. They did not notice when the darkness surrounded them. They looked around but did not see any sight of Ao Shen. "Your face," yelped Lightning Fist, and Purple Dragon immediately realized he had dark tattoos creeping on his face and body. A curse. You're not the only one who can curse people, said Ao Shen, his voice originating from the darkness without showing up. Purple Dragon's face contorted in pain. Malevolent. King. One of the phantom's 3 heads opened its mouth, and all the black tattoos rushed into its stomach. Swallowing curse? What an interesting technique, said Ao Shen. But that won't change anything. Explode, roared Lightning Fist, sacrificing her fleshly body, immortal mansion and the soul inhabitants, and immortal chi to form an intense energy wave that tore through the darkness. Purple Dragon and her soul rushed out of the formation, heading home so they could have a chance to strategize and regroup. However, as they neared their escape, a dragon head suddenly popped out of nowhere and swallowed Purple Dragon. Lightning Fist was about to turn around to help him, but she abandoned her companion when she seemed to have received a message. Ao Shen's human form appeared, and he looked in the distance. It's a shame she escaped. However, the benefit is enough for now. After digesting Purple Dragon's body, his body refining should advance by leaps and bounds. Additionally, he preserved Snake Saber's body to exchange with the Heavenly Emperor. He turned into the distance to watch the other fight. Huofeng Huang looked up and down at his opponent. Do you think you can win against me with that ring? I don't know, but am willing to try. She nodded. If there is something I admire about you, martial artists, it is your unwavering spirit and willpower. Although some people call it unnecessary stubbornness, I still respect it. With how battle-oriented your world is, we would have gotten along well, replied Xianxia. It's a shame your warmongering ways targeted us. You guys were simply unlucky. If your community were further away, you would not have been the first to suffer our wrath. But we would still have to suffer for it. Or, you would have already known what we're capable of and realized resisting was pointless. You said it yourself, we are unnecessarily stubborn. So, this battle was inevitable. Fair point, nodded Huofeng Huang. Okay, enough of chit-chat. Let's get this started. She immediately activated her awakening. Her dress suddenly changed into an extravagant, lavish red hanfu with a phoenix embroidered and a black tortoise belt. She wore a blue dragon crown, Qilin-inspired rings, and white tiger shoes. Huofeng Huang's natural aura, which was always prideful and noble, became even more regal. If she was already an unparalleled beauty, her awakening increased her charms or aura, further accentuating her beauty. Qianheng squinted his eyes before also activating his awakening. His changes were not nearly as elaborate as his opponent's. He only had a pair of metallic wings floating behind him, followed by red paint on the corner of his eyes, making him look more confident and aggressive. After the transformation, they rushed toward each other for a clash to test out their opponent. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1073 The Slaughter. Huofeng Huang's white tiger slaughter sword clashed with one of Qianheng's axes, and she moved her body to evade the second. They continued this simple clash for a minute, testing each other. Their clash reverberated throughout this world community. Then Huofeng Huang suddenly switched to using speed tactics in one swift motion, so she stabbed her swords more than 1 billion times in less than a second. Qianheng crossed the axes before him to block. Bang! Huofeng Huang's sword attack was a distraction, and her actual attack was a kick to the chest. Qianheng's battle instincts kicked in, and he raised his knee to block the kick. He frowned as he sensed a red imprint on his legs oozing with the aura of slaughter. He activated his Tao will and will manifestation to remove the slaughter mark, but Huofeng Huang had also placed these things in the mark to counter him. Boom! Qianheng kicked his opponent with the marked leg, and as soon as it came close, he exploded the leg before regenerating it, but his tactic failed as the mark was still there. Additionally, he discovered the mark was slowly siphoning his blood and stamina. Death Aura Qianheng's ring released a dark aura that rapidly ate the mark. Then he rushed to his opponent and used a void double slash. With the 2 swings of his axe, all the chaotic spatial energy in the void dispersed, creating a vacuum of energy, matter, and concepts. Huofeng Huang calmly made a circular motion with her sword, creating a yin-yang symbol before her, which absorbed the power of the two axe attacks. Then she rebounded them toward their creator. Qianheng tried to divert the slashes to the side, but the yin-yang symbol not only rebounded them but also increased their potency. Finally, he had to bear the brunt of an even more potent attack, resulting in a few injuries. Huofeng Huang did not give her opponent time to breathe, so while he was blocking, she had already appeared before him, her sword shining all red. Spinning axe technique. Qianheng did not physically spin, but his body was surrounded by a tornado of axe slashes as if he had spun with tremendous speed. The glowing sword sliced through the tornado, but it gave him enough time to protect himself with a shield created from death power. Huofeng Huang made a brilliant move as she used her yin-yang Dao to duplicate her sword, materializing it in her left hand. Qianheng was caught off guard, but it was too late to react. Her sword contained a technique to kill death, so it sliced through the shield along with the right side of Qianheng's body. Boom! Huofeng Huang flew more than 10,000 meters away because of a single punch from Qianheng's left hand. She was surprised and did not expect this. However, she was not injured. A dragon scale appeared where she was hit. The axe is considered a heavy weapon. Did his body take on this particular characteristic of the weapon, thus drastically increasing his physical strength? Analyzed Huofeng Huang. That's an interesting technique. Maybe I underestimate him. She then frowned as she saw Qianheng's right side of the body regenerated. Although it looked gray and lifeless compared to the other parts of his body, it did regenerate. This was a clean hit with Dao Will and Will manifestation, so he should have been severely injured. But now, he looked perfectly fine. Her gaze shifted to the ring. This artifact was the only reason Qianheng could keep up with her lower four-fold strength. Let's remove it from the equation. Huofeng Huang rushed toward him but discovered Qianheng was running away, heading toward his home world. Not on my watch, she thought before turning into a phoenix, chasing him. Billions of skeletons and undead appeared in her path as Qianheng used the ring to summon them. However, Huofeng Huang did not stop for a moment and burned everything in her path. As she reached him, a voice suddenly appeared in her mind. No need to chase. She thought, wondering why he stopped her. Then, her heavenly eyes saw the reason. Qianheng had nearly reached the coverage of the array protecting the martial hegemony world, and had control of it. If he used it, his strength might reach the domain of fivefold. Coward, she muttered, her voice echoing in the void. However, Qianheng did not react. Instead, he roared, retreat. The martial artists were surprised by this order since they had the advantage with their immortality but would not disobey their commander. Meanwhile, Tai Gang received a communication from the war room, and they swiftly hashed out a countermeasure. Talisman Legion provides sealing talisman to everyone. All legions are ordered to seal the area and prevent the enemy from escaping. Third layer Immortal combatants, your job is the same, prevent the enemy from retreating. Li Jun, you're up. It's time to go all out? Yes, kill as many as you want and as swiftly as possible. That's what I want to hear, laughed Li Jun, who no longer held back, releasing his aura on par with peak 3 root Dao ancestor. As he mobilized his blood, the heat from his body drastically increased the temperature in this void and empty space. He flickered his spear, and the thing began to elongate at an alarming speed. It moved like an infinite snake, and everywhere it passed, it pierced through the head of a martial artist. With this one attack, the spear pierced more than 10,000 martial artists, scattered over millions of light years. With a thought, the spear returned to its original length. Li Jun then applied enough physical force to the spear's tip that space-time collapsed, creating an enormous black hole that swallowed more than 1 million martial artists. Stop him, yelled a top of heaven chosen from the martial hegemony world. He was one of the top contenders in this generation after achieving 2-leaf strength. Sadly, the world had the demon cult leader and, in a terrible twist of fate, Su Shi. Li Jun ignored him. In front of him, these so-called immortals are a joke. He raised his left hand, and millions of metallic threats manifested out of nowhere. As he pulled, millions of martial artists had their heads sliced off. Li Jun looked at the top heaven chosen and used his slaughter word art. Explode. As soon as he uttered these words, These people could not resist. A cacophony of explosions echoed in the void, forming an intense melody that embodies war and destruction. Death Plague, Li Jun's body released a dark aura, and everyone it hit dropped dead as their face turned white. A check with Divine Sense would show a terrible virus that targets their bodies and souls. With this attack, another few million people died. Li Jun went on a killing spree. He has no problem killing these people's immortality with his slaughter Dao, turning him into a dragon in a sheep's den. He used various intricate and unique ways to kill as many people as possible. The martial artists in the other layers wanted to save their young ones, especially the promising and talented ones. Unfortunately, they had their own trouble to worry about. Additionally, in this time of stress, many people have begun to abandon their spirit and choose to run or retreat. The myriad Emperor World's Heaven Chosen watched this battle with shock. They knew Li Jun, someone from the same era as the Heavenly Emperor, was powerful since they challenged him for the #1 spot. However, they never knew the full extent of his power. Kai Renshu looked at this slaughter with clenched hands. He knew the top 10 Heaven Chosens was a difficult moat to cross, but seeing the strength of #1 shook him. He currently ranked 23rd, which is excellent considering the billions of participants and that in his world, only the Moon Goddess made the ranking, and she's 2,879th out of 3,000, almost not making the list. However, he knew his situation was not the best. With the expansion, the martial hegemony world will enter the competition, so his rank might decrease further. The good news is Li Jun seemed to be slaughtering all this generation's geniuses, but the one still sealed might be an issue. The second bad news is his relationship with the Emperor in Lightning Academy. They supported him in conquering the world as it made spreading the mortal civilizations and other projects simpler. However, their response was vague or ambiguous whenever Kai Renshu suggested he wished to join them. He did not know whether this was because he blasphemed against the headmaster or another reason, but this situation worries him. It also did not help that he could not ask other factions since his Su dynasty was in the Academy's domain, and his actions might offend a top-class Eternal Emperor. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1074 Defensive Stand. You couldn't kill such a weak Eternal, sneered Ao Shin. I feel embarrassed for you. Huo Fenghuang glanced at him. Do you think I don't know you're weaker than me without your Proving Dao artifact? How about it? Want me to slap you around? Who's afraid of you? He retorted. Although he knew his current self was weaker, he knew she did not dare fight him since the Heavenly Emperor forbade any internal fight during this war. Huo Fenghuang ignored him, paying attention to her assignment. She watched Qianheng like a hawk while waiting for the war room's next command after Li Jun's slaughters ended. Near the martial hegemony world, we should do something, said Lightning Fist's soul, floating next to Qianheng. She watched so many of her fellows die but was powerless to do anything. She had never felt so frustrated and useless since she started practicing martial arts at the young age of 5 years old. Don't you think I don't want to do anything? Said Qianheng with clenched fists. He could sense the two eyes watching his every move. He knows if he dares move out of the formation's range, they bring the wrath of the heavens upon him. That's why he can only protect the retreating martial artists who reach near the formation's range. So, we're not going to do anything at all? Just wait. Li Jun slaughtered 95% of the people in his lair. The scariest part is he did everything with a smirk on the corner of his mouth, indicating he enjoyed this mindless slaughter. So, what's next? He muttered. All third-layer Immortal Venerables, ordered Taigang. Get into a formation with a Dao ancestor to support them. Li Jun, kill all the Immortals in the third layer. Di Jiaying and the others, your task is to kill the legions in the first layer while we hold off the Immortal commanders. No problem. Li Jun entered the third layer and started another slaughter. On that day, the people of the myriad Emperor world watched as one of their own slaughtered Immortals like they were nothing but dogs or chickens. So many Immortals shed blood on that day that this part of the endless void turned golden for decades. The result of this first confrontation was evident to anyone. The martial hegemony world lost horrendously. Although they had only lost one battle and the war had just started, things were not looking great. Xianxia was eerily quiet as he watched the last of his people rush to safety. Such a grand army of billions and less than 5% survived. Sir, Xianxia raised his hand to stop her. We are martial artists. His voice boomed in the void. Our bodies and souls may fall, but our martial art will is eternal. Now come, serve your home for the last time. As soon as he finished this incantation, billions of black lights resembling tiny lightnings rushed from all 4 layers of the battlefield to fuse with the white shield surrounding the martial hegemony world, slowly turning it black-red. Stop him! Roared Tai Gang, and countless people attacked the world's protective shield, including the 2 Eternals, no, 3 Eternals, as Xianxia also appeared to help. However, it was pointless. These people watched as billions of martial art wills empowered this formation. Xianxia calmly watched them behind the protection, his hatred almost palpable. He disappeared. "Well now?" asked someone. "We can rest and resupply while I discuss our next step with the war room," replied Tai Gang. The lower-tier cultivators could not stay in this environment for too long, so under his orders, a group of weapon refiners appeared and built resting artifacts in the void. During this break, everyone is checking their military points and exchanging resources. Aoshan exchanged rare resources with Wang Wei, and he fed Snake Saber's body to the Genesis fruit. As expected, the Tier 11 essence contained in an immortal sovereign's body did attract and accelerate its growth. After a quick discussion, the war room sent the Sea Race's immortal sovereign and more insurgents to break the barrier as soon as possible. However, these people realized that it would take some time to open even with 4 eternal powerhouses. They still had to consider the slight time dilation between the void and the martial hegemony world. Martial hegemony world. Everyone in the court was absolutely silent. This war was a disaster, a fiasco, wreck. It was all the synonyms of the word failure. "So, what now?" asked someone. "These sacrifices brought us a short rest, but what now?" "The only plan I have is to get more time," said Xianxia. "We will rewrite the rules of the world to accelerate time. So, when these people eventually break our defense, we would have 100,000 or maybe millions of years to prepare." "Have you thought of the consequences, Your Majesty? Trillions upon trillions of mortals will die as a result of chaotic temporal energy. Not just mortals, most Tier 1 to Tier 6 cultivators will not survive. Meanwhile, Tier 7 to 9 might suffer weird time-related injuries if they are not careful. This plan could turn catastrophic. We can take measures to save as many lives as possible," added Xianxia. "But yes, there will be casualties. However, our priorities should be gathering resources to cultivate 1 or 2 immortal sovereigns. Meanwhile, we must also help the cult leader from proving the Tao." Xianxia glanced at a young man with blood-red eyes and star-shaped irises. The cult leader smiled after seeing Xianxia's gaze. Although he appeared gentle, no one would believe the leader of the demon cult to be a sane individual. "Any more suggestions?" asked Xianxia. "We need plans for the upcoming battle. We might not have the opportunity for a 3rd battle. How about asking the demon race for help?" suggested someone. "After what we've done to them, would they be willing to help? The better question is, can we trust them? The demon race once ruled the world after the Null Era. However, after the creation of martial arts, their race was almost hunted to extinction. They had to run away to a few scattered islands in the east and could only survive until the current era because of the Sea Race's protection. I will talk to the monster sovereign and see if they're willing to help," stated Xianxia. "And if they don't? No one can escape this war. Your Majesty, what about that old turtle? He might be a real problem." Xianxia grunted after hearing this. "Well, figure out something. Any other suggestions? I have a plan to give us a fighting chance." "You are?" "Golden Fist Lu Hu." "Oh, the Alliance leader during the demon catastrophe. Whenever the martial hegemony world suffers a catastrophe, people worldwide call for establishing the Martial Alliance and electing a leader. This would have been the case if not for the appearance of the Heavenly Court. Such customs have existed since ancient times, and the dragon subduing emperor was the Alliance leader of his time. Before the celestial demon cult became the de facto leader of the demonic way, there was a catastrophe where these demons became too powerful and wanted to mess up the world. Golden Fist became the alliance leader because of his skills and strategic mind. That's me, Your Majesty. What's your plan? I think we should. This would allow us to better concentrate our main power and increase our defense. We can. Although this will require a lot of movement, it's worth it. The only issue is whether the Peaceful Life Palace can pull off this plan? No problem, replied Reverend Tranquility. We can also add some modifications. However, I also need to warn of the issue of resources. We must maintain the world formation and do this, so please don't think we are greedy when asking for many resources. Don't worry about that, reassured Xianxia. That's all I want to hear. Anyone else? Is it possible to introduce a third party to this war to complicate it? Asked the cult leader. What do you mean? For example, we tell the Celestial Harmony world that we are willing to surrender to them again only if they defeat the Myriad Emperor world and let them fight it out before facing them, said the cult leader. Of course, that's assuming they won't join with the Myriad Emperor world to conquer us together. There is no chance for them to work together because of their connection to the Commerce Hub, but your plan will not work for another reason, explained Xianxia. And what is that? From what I know, the entire Commerce Hub fears the first Heavenly Emperor. The room immediately became quiet. What kind of existence was the Commerce Hub? An alliance that spent more than 1,000 world communities. Their world gained freedom from the Celestial Harmony world, one of their core members, not because of their strength but because of internal fighting. These Taoists had political enemies in the hub, and they used their fight with the martial hegemony world to weaken them. Otherwise, if the hub wanted to wipe them out, it would be more than simple. But such a humongous power was scared of one man. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1075 Desperate and Fierce Resistance. Is it possible to get someone else involved? Asked the cult leader stiffly. For example, a world not affiliated with the Commerce Hub, preferably one with a natural disposition or culture of war and conquest. This idea is only feasible on paper, said Golden Fist. We are currently completely isolated, and I doubt our enemy would give us the slightest chance to contact any aid. And just the fact that no one had tried to benefit in this conflict is further proof of the people's fear of the first Heavenly Emperor. Many worlds love to make a profit during times of war. They will sell resources at high prices or exchange for rarer ones, provide manpower in the form of mercenaries or even lend their armies, and sell information. However, none of this has happened. The entire world is watching this war, but everyone is quiet. Even the corpse-selling sect, which is always present in every conflict and collects bodies by any means necessary, did not show up. So, are we just going to give up because of the difficulty? Continued the cult leader. In the current situation, foreign aid is our best option. The room became silent. As much as they hated foreigners, these martial artists understood after this first battle that they desperately needed help. Sir Lu Hu, what do you think? Asked Xianxia. We can try to send a signal for aid, but our best choice would be to send emissaries through the source chi space and hope they pass this blockade. Xianxia and many people secretly groaned after hearing this. Navigating the source chi space was virtually impossible because of how vast and complex it was. While it's technically possible to use it to travel from one world community to another, what is most likely to happen is someone being lost or ending somewhere in primordial chaos. Only paragons can navigate the source chi space, but only a few. So, whoever is sent as an emissary has a low chance of succeeding, even if blessed with tremendous luck, or surviving. Then, well, do that, nodded Xianxia. If you have more ideas, state them. The meeting continued for a few more hours, and they discussed many ways to resist, including providing the resources for Lightning Fist to return to her peak. Once everything was discussed and agreed upon, Xianxia finally had a moment to himself. He ensured he was alone before raising his hand. Someone appeared before him a few minutes later. I need you to continue what you started. After setting things here, He rushed to the islands to see the monster sovereign and that old turtle. Outside of the martial hegemony world, countless powerhouses attacked the world protective shield relentlessly. It was a sight to see as hundreds of immortal, Dao, and Emperor artifacts shone with brilliant lights. Array masters were constantly analyzing the formation to find or create weaknesses. "Commander, we've intercepted a distress signal," said one of the lead array master. "Distress signal? We've blocked the entire world, preventing them from teleporting or communicating with the outside world. However, they used vibration from the world shield to ask for help. What should we do? Do we just block, or do you have any other plans?" Tai Gang thought momentarily. "Just block it." "No, release it," suddenly said Wang Wei. "Let's see if we can bait others into intervening in this conflict." "As you wish, Your Majesty." "No problem. Also, I will send the array virus and test to see if they are useful," Wang Wei added. "Excellent," commented Tai Gang. The last time the array virus showed a public appearance was during the Heaven Chosen trial. However, after so many years, the thing has been optimized and further developed by many people, including Miscellaneous One. Soon, the team received a red disc that somewhat resembled formation discs. After being instructed on what to do, they activated the item. As expected, the speed of breaking through the formations suddenly accelerated. It would have been broken instantly if not for the martial arts wills empowering the shield. Bang! Feng Wang's sword was the last attack that broke the shield. The soldiers cheered, but no one rushed. Tai Gang, Ao Shin, and Feng Huang led a small group of soldiers inside as a vanguard. As soon as they stepped into the world, something exploded. Luckily, these people were at the top of the power ceiling, and this attempt was pointless to them. "What happened?" asked Tai Gang, who could not see anything around him no matter where he looked. "We're surrounded by formations," explained Feng Huang with a frown. "More importantly, these formations can even hide from my sight." Not only were these things invisible, but the world was surrounded by a fog that isolated visions and divine sense. How is that possible? This world's heavenly Tao was willing to waste much world source to aid its people, explained Ao Shun, who noticed the fog and other anomalous things. "Can you deal with them?" asked Tai Gang. "Let's just detonate all of them," said Feng Huang before she started attacking everything with her sight. She did not go all out since she needed to preserve this world, but her actions were successful. Most of the hidden formations detonated upon coming into contact with her attacks. "We should be careful as these people seemed ready," warned Ao Shin, and Tai Gang nodded. He sensed the abnormal temporal energy in the surroundings and had an inkling of what these people did. "Can our soldiers land?" asked Tai Gang. "No problem, but there seem to be many hidden things in this world," warned Feng Huang. "At this point, will conquering this world even be worth it?" asked the Dark Dragon. After using so much world source to defend themselves, they might only acquire a shelf of a world. "You've forgotten they've established a court, so they must have saved a lot of world source," reminded Feng Huang. "You're right. Plus, as long as this place is still a heavenward world, it should be worth it." Tai Gang had called the troops to land on this world while warning them of the danger. He plans to settle everyone before sending a scouting regiment to prepare for the unseen. Tai Gang suddenly heard a loud sound while discussing how to proceed with the war room. "Watch out," yelled Feng Huang. Boom! All the soldiers were engulfed in a firestorm followed by intense poisonous ashes. Luckily, she reacted fast enough and protected everyone. "Was that a volcano explosion?" asked one of the officers. However, the latter's words did not end as the ground surrounding their location began to tremble and collapse. The soldiers had to stay in the air to prevent them from falling, but then, the gravity in their area suddenly increased 1,000,000 times. Without the Immortal's help, these soldiers would have become meat paste. "What's going on? It's like the entire world is fighting against us." "That's because it is," said Feng Huang, looking in the distance. "It's treating us as invading species or parasites." Her words were immediately proven correct as the temperature around them suddenly dropped to an abysmal level. In this weather, even a quasi-emperor will freeze to death. "All saints and above, deploy your domain and regulate our surroundings," ordered Tai Gang, and the soldiers followed his orders. With billions of domains, their landing spot became a place whose laws or rules of heaven and earth were no longer under heavenly Dao's control. "I think we should be safe for now," muttered a soldier, and his companion wanted to shush him so as not to jinx things. Unfortunately, it was too late as low-level soldiers began to fall to the ground with dark veins on their necks and bodies. "What is it this time?" complained Tai Gang as he rushed to check the nearest soldiers, and as expected, he could not see anything. "Those martial artists are really desperate," commented Aoshin. "What happened?" asked Tai Gang. "They've corrupted the spiritual qi of heaven and earth," explained Huafenghuang. "Anyone who absorbs any energy in this place will be poisoned." Tai Gang groaned. "Only immortals have genuinely escaped the shackles of qi. Tier 7 to 9 might have a very low reliance, but they still need it. Meanwhile, anyone of Tier 6 and lower cannot survive long without absorbing qi to replenish their origin essence. From now on, all soldiers can only use pills to recuperate their qi," ordered Tai Gang before pausing. "Wait. The war room ordered you four to open small breaches in the source qi space to provide energy for the soldiers. That'll be more cost-effective. Will that count as part of our military exploits?" "Yes," nodded Tai Gang, so the eternal powerhouses started acting in their order. After adequate rest, enough qi, and without worrying about Mother Nature literally killing them, the group advanced inland, further into the fog. Tai Gang decided to gather more information before making an adequate plan. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1076 Heaven, Earth, and Yin-Yang. Tai Gang stopped the moving legions due to the intense fog. The lack of visibility or detection abilities worried him, and he feared whatever traps his enemy was planning for them. "Should we remove the fog?" asked Tai Gang. "It could be what they expect us to do," stated Aoshin. "So, gathering more information before acting is the best option?" "I found a human town nearby," said Huafenghuang, activating her heavenly eye to its full extent. "Let's check it out." Xianxia and the sea race immortal sovereign named Jiaoqiu stayed behind to protect the troops as the three rushed to their destination. The moment they landed outside the village, they detected an anomaly. The mortals in this town looked weird. Some people had old faces with young bodies, old bodies with young faces, normal bodies with baby arms, faces that were part old and part young, and many odd-shaped bodies. "This should be the adverse effect of forcefully messing with the entire world's time," commented Huafenghuang. "We need to calculate how long has passed, as this could affect the battle's tide," added Aoshin. "My eye can't see anything, and this place is disturbing any divination," said Huafenghuang, looking at the sky. "It will take me a little while to find the answer. It's best to take a sample of the temporal energy in the world and have Su Shi or the Heavenly Emperor analyze it." "I'll do that," said Tai Gang. "No need," suddenly said Wang Wei. "It's been a little over 75,000 years. "That's long enough to make a difference," muttered Aoshin. "Your Majesty, what should we do next?" "Disperse the fog and prepare for the real battle," replied Wang Wei, and the two Eternals immediately acted. They flew into the air and used absolute force. Huafenghuang released a flame that burned everything in its path, while Aoshin released a devouring power that swallowed the fog. As expected, some weird creatures from the fog had the power to affect the mind or senses, but with two top eternal powerhouses, they posed no issues. Soon, the entire world was cleared as divine sense, and other senses could function as usual. That's when everyone saw a giant shield that separated the martial hegemony world into two. One side was still blocked by fog, and the other cleared. The world's composition was basic. An enormous consecutive continent with a few scattered islands. So, the separation was easily accomplished and apparent. "So, that's their tactic," muttered Aoshin. As he scanned his side of the formation, there were only sick mortals. All the cultivators moved to the other side. They even moved the location of their lineages to the other side. "Yin-Yang formation?" thought Huafenghuang. She noticed the difference between their sides, which represented yin or evil, and the martial artist side, which represented yang and everything good. Why does this array look even more powerful than the world-protecting one? She frowned at this thought before voicing her concerns. Tai Gang swiftly called the array masters to give an analysis and summary. "Brilliant," said an elderly Dao ancestor wearing blue clothes, long white hair floating in the hair, and caressing his long white beard. "I thought their development of profession Dao was subpar, but they developed such a brilliant array. You can see the obvious Taoist ideologies in it." "Can you explain?" asked Tai Gang. "This array combines heaven, earth, and yin-yang," explained the array master. "The one we destroy to enter this world is heaven, and this one is earth. It uses yin-yang to strengthen earth further, with a secondary boost from martial art will. Furthermore, heavenly Dao might be providing them with world sources to aid them further." Tai Gang groaned, "This is getting annoying. Can you break it?" "Yes, but it will take time." "What about the array virus?" "Yin-yang does not only represent the opposite but also changes," replied the array master. "And that's one weakness of the array virus, so it will still take some time. Do you have a way to accelerate the process? Disintegrate it from the inside, send more powerhouses, or have His Majesty act personally?" Tai Gang waved, "Do your best, and I'll see what I can do about more powerhouses." He communicated with the war room for the next step. He needed more resources, more soldiers, more everything. Additionally, Tai Gang needed to know what to do with this conquered land as they technically owned half of the world. The war room agreed to send the Void Time Empress to heal the mortal's sickness as they are valuable. "Alert! Enemy attack!" Tai Gang rushed over and saw what was happening. The sky turned dark because an incalculable amount of creatures rushed out of the formation. Due to the sudden attack, many of the array masters close to the shield were killed. "Damn it, why are those people so careless?" muttered Tai Gang, who knew why. The war has been proceeding so smoothly that some people have relaxed their guard or become arrogant. He swiftly mobilized all the legions to prepare for war. Tai Gang frowned as he saw the enemy. "Are those demon races?" He hesitated because these creatures had glowing red eyes, and their bodies released a dark, eerie, shadowy aura. Tai Gang suddenly felt his body tremble and the surrounding temperature dropping to a freezing degree. He looked around to find the source and saw an irate Ao Shen. He sighed. "Damn you," roared Ao Shen, shaking the entire world. "Calm down, or you'll destroy the world," said Huafeng Huang. How can Ao Shen calm down? He knew the plight of the demon race in this world and planned to lure them to migrate to the northern continent. Additionally, he owed a few of them karma for saving him when he was here. But now, he saw his plan fail, and his people turned into mindless killing machines and cannon fodder. Ao Shen exhaled to calm down. Is it possible to save them? After all, we need them for the demon school. His only chance was for the war room to see his point and agree. You should understand, with their destroyed or corrupted souls, it's no longer worth the effort to save them, said Huafeng Huang, making Ao Shen snort coldly. You should watch out, Huafeng Huang told Tai Gang. These creatures contain terrifying poisons, curses, and diseases. I understand. Tai Gang ordered alchemy and talisman legions to act as aid for this battle, reducing the casualties from these causes. Even with these preparations, the loss was more than he had anticipated. After the battle, Tai Gang instructed the array masters to place formations to prevent another sneak attack while also gathering these demons' bodies to see if they would be of use. He expected this was only the first wave and more was to come. Tai Gang suddenly sensed a shift in the world and looked in the distance. There it was, a handsome man in white clothes with flowing silver-gray hair, the Heavenly Emperor. He did not release any aura or make his presence known, but his every existence changed the fundamental concepts of the world, such as matter, energy, space, time, and fate. So, all eyes were immediately on him. All hail His Majesty. Be at ease, said Wang Wei calmly before looking at the shield. Sir Qianheng, how about a conversation? After a few seconds, the fog cleared briefly as a man in red armor appeared floating in the sky. Wang Wei, said Qianheng with gritted teeth and hatred in his eyes, his arm crossed before him. No one knows this is just a facade, that this proud martial artist had to use every ounce of his willpower to prevent his body from trembling out of pure fear. Martial artists have a naturally sharper instinct than many other paths or systems, and Xianxia, one of the best in this system, shared this ability. So, he knew how scary this man was the moment he laid eyes on him. He knew this person could kill him by simply breathing a little harder. He knew that this formation, which was the embodiment of their world's civilization and their hope, could not protect him. The fear was so intense that Xianxia felt his body, mind, and soul collapsing. He felt ashamed, so he did everything to resist that fear. To his surprise, he discovered his willpower being tempered at a tremendous speed. Wang Wei smiled. You should now understand how pointless your resistance is. So, why not stop wasting each other's time? Veins appeared on Xianxia's neck as he realized this war was nothing but a game for this man. He could have conquered this place alone in less than a few minutes if he wanted to. Xianxia realized the ease at which this man could conquer his home. This news devastated him. Regardless, we will never surrender, replied Xianxia. Death is better than subjugation. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. You're tuning in to the Wandering Hero YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.